Chapter 773. The Jade Emperor's sword array condensed a sword chi storm that spun clockwise. Within the Jade Emperor's sword formation, Dugutienya's sword formation was rotating counterclockwise. The two sword formations in opposite directions spun rapidly and collided with each other. Rumble! It was as if two gears were colliding in reverse. Sword array? How is it possible for you? You're just deity realm. How can you stop me? Dugutienya said in surprise. Within the Jade Emperor's sword formation, Yan Chuan looked coldly at Dugutienya. Nothing is absolute in this world. Dugutienya? Are you not a member of the Dugu family? Yan Chuan coldly asked. His nephew had said that the Nine Swords Hall was hostile to the other halls. Furthermore, Dugutienya had ignored the Dugu Sword Emperor's kindness of saving his life and killed him without hesitation. This made Yan Chuan a little suspicious. Of course, it was only a suspicion. After all, it was not impossible for a family to produce a group of scum. Therefore, Yan Chuan asked, "Are you not a member of the Dugu family?" It could be understood that Yan Chuan doubted Dugutienya's identity. Similarly, it could also be understood as saying that Dugutienya was inhumane and didn't care about blood ties. It all depended on how the other party understood it. Hearing Yan Chuan's words, Dugutienya's expression changed. "How did you know?" Dugutienya asked in a slightly panicked manner. Yan Chuan was slightly stunned, but he hid it extremely well. Was this Dugutienya really not a member of the Dugu clan? How would I know? How do you think I know? Otherwise, how do you think we arrived at the depths of the sword tomb without a scratch? Yan Chuan said in a cold voice. Yan Chuan did not say why, but he gave Dugutienya a psychological hint. That's right, they had risked their lives to get here, but Yan Chuan and his group of weaklings had come in unscathed? Conspiracy. It was a huge conspiracy. Dugutienya, who had a guilty conscience, used Yan Chuan as an excuse. It's Dugu Butian. Did Dugu Butian discover it? He knows? Dugutienya's expression greatly changed. Of course he knows. What do you think? Yan Chuan said. The more Dugutienya was confused, the more Dugutienya was Dugutienya even more. No, we did it very covertly. How could it have been leaked? How is that possible? Dugutienya said with grief and hatred. The purpose of the sword tomb is to catch all of you in one fell swoop. Most of the people in front are already dead. Do you still want to struggle? You have no chance. Yan Chuan said coldly. Dugu Butian, you can't kill us. You can't. The main clan is in decline. It's useless to hide. Forget about Clan Lord Dugu Butian. Even our sword division master could wipe you out. Dugu Butian, did you hear what I just said? Our sect master is stationed outside this world. You can't kill me. Otherwise, none of the Dugu sect's disciples here can think about living. Dugutienya roared at the sky, as if he wanted to shout for Dugu Butian to hear. Hearing Dugutienya's words, Yan Chuan opened his mouth and was stunned. Did this person go stupid from practicing the sword? So easy to deceive? Main sect? Split up? It looked like this group of people were also Dugu sect's disciples. However, they were one of the 9 sword sect's Dugu potions subordinates in the Immortal world. Dugutienya, do you think that after busying yourself for half a day everything was for nothing? What you can't get isn't what you can touch. Yan Chuan berated. What you can touch isn't what you can touch. Yan Chuan naturally did not know what they wanted to touch, but it did not hinder Yan Chuan from tricking him. Chapter 774. Dugutienya was indeed cooperative. The main family's secret? That's right, Dugu Butian has boundless arrogance and doesn't need to be understood. However, our 9-sword mountain range is different. Dugu Butian, what's the point of you guarding the main family's secret? The main family has completely declined, and only you are left holding on. How long can you hold on? Dugutienya shouted to the sky. The main family's secret? Yan Chuan asked again. This Dugu Tianya had indeed cultivated until he became stupid. Dugu Tianya, don't be delusional. The main family's things are the main family's. It will never be your branch family's turn to steal. Although the main family is weak, it is still the main family. Your branch family, including Dugupatian, is just a dog of the main family. How can a dog dare to attack its master? Yan Chuan said coldly. Dog? Ha, you are the dogs. Do you know those immortals of your main family who ascended? Now that they are in the immortal world, they are also like dogs in our branch family. Tell us everything about this world. Otherwise, how do you think we can find you? Dugu Tianya said angrily. It turned out that the descendant of the Dugu family, who had ascended in the past, had leaked Dugu Butian's whereabouts. Yan Chuan gradually sorted out the situation and also found that this Dugu Tianya in front of him was too cute. Yan Chuan kept pressuring, threatening, and tricking Dugu Tianya. Dugu Tianya was also extremely cooperative and spilled all his secrets. From the first time he met Dugu Tianya, Yan Chuan knew that this person was definitely wholeheartedly focused on cultivation and had too little understanding of the sinister hearts of people. Otherwise, with his identity as a spy, why would he make enemies everywhere? Not only did he berate the emperor, but he also berated himself, mocked the Dugu Sword Emperor, and ostracized Yan Wudi? Was this the awareness of a spy? Yan Chuan kept trying to get information from Dugu Tianya. On the other side, the emperor's surroundings were filled with saber chi, blocking in front of Dugu Tianji. The emperor was only at the lower void stage, but in front of the middle void stage Dugu Tianji, he was not weak at all. Boom! The two collided. Hearing Yan Chuan's interrogation of Dugu Tianya below, Dugu Tianji's expression was extremely ugly. Idiot, idiot! Dugu Tianya, you idiot! Shut up! Dugu Tianji's eyes were filled with hatred. This Dugu Tianya actually said everything? Idiot! Whoosh! The long sword was about to slash towards Yan Chuan's Jade Emperor sword array. Clang! Dugu Tianji once again blocking in front of Dugu Tianji. Tianji, Dugu Tianji's right? As the sword and saber clashed, the emperor's eyes turned cold as he said, "The one who should get lost is you, Dugu Tianji. We didn't decide the victor last time, so let's do it again this time." Whoosh! Dragging the long saber, Dugu Tianji was immediately jolted away. Thhhhhhhhhs. Tif. If not to sharpen my saber technique, you would have died countless times. The emperor's eyes turned cold as he waved the saber in his hand. Behind the emperor, 100-foot giant peak suddenly rushed out. The blade-shaped giant peak carried a powerful saber intent and pressed towards Dugu Tianji. Boom! The two peerless powerhouses fought again. On the other side, Yan Wudi hugged the Dugu Sword Emperor. "Father, you'll be fine. We don't want the position of family head anymore. Let's go back," Yan Wudi said with bloodshot eyes. His hand was constantly covering the Dugu Sword Emperor's wound. The blood could be stopped, but the essence energy was constantly leaking out. Chapter 775. The Dugu Sword Emperor looked at Yan Wudi with a hint of bitterness in his eyes. "Wudi, it's all Father's fault. Ha ha ha, Father can't take it anymore. Father can't leave you anything. Once Father leaves, you will definitely be ostracized by the other 8 palaces. Ha 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 ha." The Dugu Sword Emperor was extremely weak. "Father, don't speak. Your essence will leak even faster," Yan Wudi anxiously said. "Die. I'm not afraid. I can go see your master's wife. Remember, after I die, bury me with your master's wife." Cough, cough. The Dugu Sword Emperor coughed out blood. "Father, you will be fine," Yan Wudi sobbed. Looking at Yan Wudi, the Dugu Sword Emperor suddenly revealed a desolate smile. He extended his right hand, and a white light suddenly appeared. Buzz! An inch-long sword shadow suddenly appeared in his palm. "This is the proof of my 3 swords palace, Dugu Jian," The Dugu Sword Emperor looked at the inch-long sword shadow in his palm. Facing the shadow, the Dugu Sword Emperor solemnly said, "Dugu Jian, listen well. In the name of the Three Swords Palace Master, I formally swear that I am willing to pass down the Three Swords mountain range to my son, Wudi Dugu, of my own free will. Heaven and earth are my witnesses." Buzz. The shadow of the Dugu sword suddenly blossomed with a dazzling radiance. The Dugu Sword Emperor patted the shadow of light on Yen Wudi's forehead. Swish. The Dugu sword immediately entered Yen Wudi's body. Boom. Sword energy suddenly shot out from Yen Wudi's body in all directions. "Father? Wudi, listen well. From now on, you are the palace master of the Three Swords Palace. You can inherit the Patriarch's position. With this proof, the Patriarch will definitely approve of you. What father can help you with is only this much," Dugu Jianwang said with a bitter smile. "Remember, bury me with your master's wife." After the Dugu Sword Emperor finished his last sentence, his hand went limp and there was no more sound. "Father!" Yen Wudi looked up to the sky and howled in grief. As Yen Wudi hugged the Dugu Sword Emperor and cried, another figure quietly broke through the tomb and stepped into the central safe zone. It was a man with red hair. The man's eyes were extremely cold, but his body was the cleanest. If one looked carefully, one would notice that Dugu Tianya and Dugu Tianji, the two middle void stage experts, more or less had sword wounds on their bodies when they were in the sword tomb. However, the man with red hair on his temples was covered in snow and didn't have the slightest injury. The man looked at the Dugu Sword Emperor. Yen Wudi hugged the Dugu Sword Emperor's corpse and wailed loudly. The man revealed a look of disdain. This was because Yen Wudi was only at the peak of the Qi Jing level. The man was more concerned about the other two battlefields, Yen Chuan's Jade Emperor's sword formation and the battle between Emperor and Dugu Tianji. Looking at the two battlefields, the man squinted his eyes and analyzed which one he should help first. Suddenly, the man's expression changed and he looked at the Jade Emperor's sword formation again. At that moment, Yen Chuan suddenly turned around and noticed the man. Damn! Yen Chuan's expression changed. The man was the same. If he was discovered, the effect of his sneak attack would be greatly reduced. Without any hesitation, the man spun the long sword in his hand and rushed up to the sky. He turned into a ray of light and stabbed the Emperor from his back. It was too fast. It was so fast that it could pierce through the Emperor's body in an instant. Whoosh! Another middle void stage expert? Moreover, he is even stronger than Dugu Tianji? Yen Chuan's expression changed. He had already reached his limit by blocking Dugu Tianya. This man is even stronger than Dugu Tianji? I can't stop him. Once the Emperor is severely injured, 3 middle void stage experts will gang up on me? Won't that be the end? Chapter 776. Yen Chuan didn't use his full strength against Dugu Tianya. After all, he still had the God Sword. However, Yen Chuan knew that even if he used his full strength, he would suffer great losses. Moreover, killing Dugu Tianya wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. Therefore, Yen Chuan chose to talk to the Emperor. However, Yen Chuan could see that the Emperor didn't use his full strength either. Of course, it seemed like an Emptiness Realm expert below the Emperor's level was the limit of a middle Emptiness Realm expert. However, Yen Chuan knew from the Emperor's eyes that the Emperor still had something to rely on. The Emperor was sharpening his sword. If the Emperor was successfully ambushed, his team would be wiped out. Boom! Yen Chuan stomped his foot and charged into the sky with the God's sword in his hand. The Jade Emperor's sword quickly withdrew and flew toward Yen Chuan to protect Yen Chuan. Blue sky thundercloud absorb. Yen Chuan roared. Boom! Suddenly, frost appeared all around. Yen Chuan quickly blocked the man who ambushed the Emperor with the God's sword. Boom! The God's sword shot out, but it was nothing in front of the man. How could the Immortal Realm's sword and the Middle Emptiness Realm's sword compare? Yan Chuan could see that the man was stronger than Dugu Tianji. Yan Chuan's sword was mixed with endless cold air. Frost instantly rushed toward the man opposite him. The sword qi in the surroundings was instantly frozen, but the sword qi was only covered with frost. The Middle Emptiness Realm expert was too strong. Yan Chuan's cultivation in this life was too shackled. Therefore, he couldn't use his skills even if he had boundless strength. Yan Chuan's body was like an iceberg that enveloped Yan Chuan's body. Boom! More than half of the iceberg exploded, and the sword qi pierced through Yan Chuan's left chest. Yan Chuan was sent flying, and a large amount of ice shattered. Bang! Yan Chuan bumped into the Emperor, who had turned his head around. Yan Chuan? The Emperor asked in surprise. Yan Chuan's chest was pierced through, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He bitterly said, "I asked you to go all out, and you still have the time to sharpen your blade?" Bang! 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 Dugu Tianji, and the Middle Void stage martial artist, who had severely injured Yan Chuan, all surrounded him. Yan Chuan's chest was pierced through. Clearly, he no longer had the strength to continue fighting. 3 Middle Void stage martial artists against 1 War Emperor. Dugu Tianji, why are you so slow? The white-clothed man coldly asked. The Emperor's strength has increased again. Dugu Tianji said respectfully. The Emperor looked at the hole in Yan Chuan's chest, and his eyes instantly turned red. This sword was originally aimed at him. At that time, he was dealing with Dugu Tianji and had no time to block it. Was it Yan Chuan who saved him? So sorry, the Emperor said with a complicated look in his eyes. Why aren't you attacking? Don't worry about me. I won't die yet. Yan Chuan shouted. Attack? You can't even defeat me, and now there are 3 Middle Void stage martial artists. Emperor, let's see how you're going to escape. Dugu Tianji said coldly. The Emperor's eyes were bloodshot and his face twitched. For a moment, a vicious aura shot out. Roar! The Emperor suddenly raised his head and roared. A surge of vicious aura exploded. The vicious aura shot out, blowing in all directions like a storm. The Emperor's face became more and more malevolent, and suddenly changed shape. It was as if his skin had melted, revealing his dark red muscles. His skin melted, and the Emperor turned into a flesh and blood devil. Bang! A pair of flesh wings suddenly appeared on his back. The flesh wings were also badly mutilated, as if they were skinned. Chapter 777. The teeth in his mouth also turned into saw teeth, and the Emperor's body suddenly expanded. Ka. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a 10 meters tall monster with no skin all over his body. His head was ferocious, his eyes were as big as copper bells, his mouth was like saw teeth, and his back had fleshy wings. It was like a demon's fantasy world. The long saber in his hand turned, and a terrifying killing wind blew out in all directions. The wind took the shape of a saber and blew in all directions, drawing huge saber grooves on the ground. What's going on? Dugu Tianyi was stunned by this scene. The small and exquisite Emperor just now had turned into a 10 meters tall monster in the blink of an eye? This form was too valiant. Gently putting down Yan Chuan, the Emperor suddenly looked at the man who attacked him sneakily just now. The long saber in his hand turned and was about to slash. Humph, so what if you've turned into a monster? You scared me, go to hell. Dugu Tianyi quickly slashed with his sword. Whoosh! Fast, so fast that it was inconceivable. In the blink of an eye, the Emperor had already appeared behind Dugu Tianyi. With his back to his back, Dugu Tianyi immediately felt that something was wrong, but it was already too late. Boom! Only a saber light could be seen, and Dugu Tianyi was cut in half at the waist. It was too fast, so fast that no one had time to react. The other 2 Middle Void stage experts also looked at the monster in front of them with incomparable astonishment. That speed? Whoosh! The monster turned its head and looked at Dugutianji and the other man. The faces of the two twitched. Even if Dugutianyao was the weakest among the three, he was still a middle void stage expert. Killing him with one slash? Attack together! The man suddenly shouted. Roar! The monster roared. Whoosh! It was so fast that only an afterimage was left behind, and it instantly appeared behind the man. The man's entire body also trembled. Was it the same scene? The man quickly fled in horror. Boom! He was still a bit too slow. One of his arms was instantly cut off. Ah! The man cried out in pain. This wasn't a battle, this was a one-sided massacre. The Emperor transformed into a monster, and his killing intent soared into the sky. The two middle void stage experts couldn't see his saber technique and figure clearly. If this continued, they would definitely be finished. What kind of monster is this? Dugutianji roared in shock. Who? The monster once again appeared behind Dugutianji, and with a backhand slash, it slashed again. No! Dugutianji was indescribably terrified. His long sword was placed behind his back, and his body was even more terrified as he fled forward. Boom! Dugutianji once again charged into the sword tomb. At this moment, Dugutianji would rather face the sword tomb than the monster. This monster was too terrifying. The monster turned its head to look at the one-armed man. The man was horrified and instantly charged into the sword catacomb. Roar! The monster roared. Dragging the long saber on the ground, the monster followed step by step into the sword mound. Boom! 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 Within the sword mound, thousands of divine swords shot out. The monster's eyes turned cold, and he swung his long saber. Boom! The divine sword exploded with a loud bang, and the monster raised his saber and quickly attacked everyone. Boom! Wherever the blade passed, a head flew out. With one slash, a sword cultivator fell. It was as if they were harvesting straws. It was too valiant. In front of the monster, the terrifying sword catacomb was like an uninhabited land. Not far away, Yan Chuan looked at this scene in astonishment. This? Transformation? Blade Demon? This is the real Blade Demon? Not bad. Since the Yin family has the bloodline superpower, the Emperor must have it too. What a powerful Blade Demon. Uncle Chuan, are you okay? Yen Wudi also rushed over. I'm fine. When the sword stabbed over, I froze all of the raging sword energy. It only pierced through my right lung and a few bones. I'm fine. Yen Chuan shook his head. Indeed, although Yen Chuan's chest was pierced through, there was a layer of frost around the wound, and he didn't bleed. Crackle! Suddenly, a large amount of fine lightning appeared around the wound. The lightning flashed and stimulated Yen Chuan's body. Tender flesh that could be seen with the naked eye grew rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the wound was filled with new flesh. He looked fine on the outside. Yen Chuan also closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. He stimulated the growth of his internal organs and quickly recovered from his injuries. On the other side, the monster was too ferocious. It moved freely in the sword catacomb and quickly killed the emptiness realm expert. Dugutianji and the one-armed man couldn't escape. They were facing a monster that was filled with hatred and anger. They didn't hold back at all. Kill! 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 Yen Wudi looked at the monster in the distance with mixed feelings. Although the sword catacomb was powerful, it couldn't stop the Emperor and Uncle Chuan. Uncle Chuan used his wisdom, and the Emperor used his brute force. Both of them could safely break the array. After killing everyone, the monster walked back. Slowly, the monster's body changed and turned back into the Emperor's original appearance. However, the Emperor's eyes were slightly weak. Obviously, transforming into a monster had exhausted the Emperor. The Emperor's clothes could change size. Obviously, it was a good treasure. The Emperor walked over, and Yen Chuan opened his eyes at the right time. Looking at the new flesh on Yen Chuan's chest, a complicated expression flashed across the Emperor's eyes. Finally, he took a deep breath and said, "Thank you. I'm fine," Yen Chuan said with a smile. The emperor bit his lips and nodded solemnly. The emperor didn't like to talk, but he wouldn't forget this kindness. "Uncle Chuan, my father, he..." Yen Wudi's eyes turned red again. Looking at the Dugu Sword Emperor's corpse not far away, Yen Chuan sighed slightly. "Let's collect the Dugu Sword Emperor's corpse." Yen Chuan sighed slightly. Okay. There were 4 people, but now there were only 3 left. After knowing that Yen Wudi had inherited the 3 Swords vein, Yen Chuan was determined to continue to the Heaven Mending Palace. The Emperor also had something to ask Dugu Mending Tian. The 3 of them slowly walked to the Heaven Mending Palace. Heaven Mending Palace. From the outside, the Heaven Mending Palace was incomparably simple. There was no sense of glory, but the main hall was embedded in the mountain. The main door was even made of wood. The 3 Swords Palace Master, Dugu Wudi, requests an audience with the Patriarch. Yen Wudi respectfully called out. The main hall was silent. There was no reply. The 3 of them raised their eyebrows. The 3 Swords Vein Master, Dugu Wudi, requests an audience with the Patriarch through the Sword Tomb. Yen Wudi shouted again. The main hall was still silent. Yen Wudi looked at Yen Chuan. Yen Chuan lightly nodded. After receiving Yen Chuan's affirmation, Yen Wudi stepped forward. He walked to the wooden door and said again, Dugu Wudi entered uninvited. "Please forgive me, Patriarch." After speaking, Yen Wudi stretched out his hand and pushed the wooden door. There was no resistance. The wooden door was easily pushed open. Yen Chuan outside the door was on guard. He looked into the main hall with a puzzled expression. The door was gradually pushed open until it was completely open. The 3 of them stood at the door and looked into the main hall. Their expressions changed almost at the same time. Chapter 778. Heaven Mender Palace? Before entering the palace, everyone had a strong fantasy. Dugu Butian was the #1 person in the world 20,000 years ago. Even the Dugu family's descendants, except for those with average aptitude who ascended, all the talented disciples entered the Heaven Mender Palace upon reaching the upper void realm. In everyone's heart, this place should be a holy land for sword cultivators. However, the moment the door was pushed open, the holy land of sword cultivators in the eyes of the 3 was not the case at all. "This is..." Yen Wudi said in surprise. The center of the palace was incomparably bright. It was not a luminous pearl, but a white longsword that hung in the center of the palace. The white longsword emitted a gentle white light that illuminated the center of the palace. At the center of the palace, 1,000 figures were sitting. All of them wore white robes and surrounded a figure in the center. The 1,000 figures were not living people, but extremely thin corpses. All of them had snow-white hair and were exhausted of energy. Even though the corpses no longer had any vitality, their eyes were still shining with determination. Beside each of the corpses, there was a long sword stabbed into the ground. Is that the myriad nether sword? The previous palace master of the 3 Swords Palace? An upper void realm expert who was recruited by the family head 50 years ago? Yen Wudi said in surprise as he pointed at one of the exhausted corpses. That is the World Calamity Sword, that is the Heart Extinguishing Sword, that is... Yen Wudi said continuously. Each of the swords was a legend of the Dugu family in the past. Beside each of the divine swords, there were only corpses left. Everyone is dead? Everyone is withered? How can this be? Yen Wudi said in surprise. The 1,000 corpses surrounded a white-robed old man in the center. That white-robed old man was the same. His body was so thin that only bones were left. His hair was dry and white, and his fingers were like branches. His withered hands were clenched together and placed in front of his chest. Looking from afar, there was no trace of life. They were like corpses. However, this old man's eyes were closed. Is that Dugu Butian? Yen Chuan asked the emperor. The emperor shook his head and said, I don't know. Dugu Butian was not like this in the past. His energy, profound chi, and even his soul were completely exhausted. What happened? Yen Wudi looked at the scene in surprise. 1,000 corpses? Heaven Mender Palace? The Dugu family's various palaces continuously entered the Sword Tomb in order to enter the Heaven Mending Palace and obtain the Patriarch's inheritance. However, how could the Heaven Mending Palace be like this? Yen could not help but take a step forward. Buzz! The white longsword that hung high above the hall suddenly emitted 100 times brighter light. The light illuminated the entire hall, and a powerful sword intent rushed towards the 3 people outside the hall. The 9's 10 9s were the 9 nether was 3 9 nether. Buzz! A beam of white light suddenly shot out from between Yen Wudi's brows. The white light rushed towards Bai Jian in the main hall. Instantly, Bai Jian's hostility dissipated. A sword-shaped white light appeared between Yen Wudi's eyebrows. The Dugu Jian that my father passed down to me? Could this be the proof? Yen Wudi blankly touched his forehead. The white sword hanging in the hall instantly withdrew its hostility and began to tremble rapidly. Buzz! The white sword trembled incessantly, and white light waves that could be seen with the naked eye rushed towards the old man's corpse in the center. Buzz! The old man's long hair suddenly trembled violently. Chapter 779. Then, under the gazes of the 3 people, the old man slowly opened his eyes. It was a pair of empty eyes. In the old man's eyes, it was as if he could see an endless abyss. He's alive. Yen Chuan frowned at the old man. You're here, the old man said in a hoarse voice. Dugu Wudi of the 3 Swords Palace greets the Patriarch. Yen Wudi said respectfully. Dugu Wudi's daughter, Emperor, greets the Patriarch of the Dugu family. Emperor stepped forward. Yen Chuan greets the Patriarch of the Dugu family. Yen Chuan took a deep breath and said, Dugu Butian. This emaciated old man was Dugu Butian? Dugu Wudi? Since Dugu Jian admitted it, you're also a member of the Dugu family. Dugu family? Dugu family? Sigh. The old man sighed. Patriarch, are these the experts of the Dugu family? How could this be? How could this be? Yen Wudi looked at the corpses in shock. Innate sword bones, not bad. The old man didn't answer the question. Then, he looked at Emperor. You're the daughter of the Dugu family? The old man looked at Emperor. Patriarch of the Dugu family, my father died and I was sealed by him for thousands of years. I'm here today to ask Patriarch of the Dugu family what happened back then. Emperor said emotionally. The Dugu family is dead? Dugu Butian was slightly surprised. Dugu Butian's accident had disheartened Emperor. Dugu Butian didn't know? I've been in seclusion all this time. I don't know anything about the outside world. Ask someone else. Dugu Butian shook his head. Yes. Emperor nodded. Dugu Butian glanced at Yen Chuan and his eyes suddenly lit up. You're Yen Chuan? You're the same. It seems like I'm not alone. Dugu Butian suddenly sighed. Not alone? Patriarch of the Dugu family, what did you say? I don't understand. Yen Chuan didn't understand. Butian, you're also mending the heavens. A hint of approval flashed through Dugu Butian's eyes. Mending the heavens? Yen Chuan looked confused. When did he mend the heavens? Invincible Dugu! Dugu Butian called out. Here. Yen Wudi stepped forward. Do you want to know how they died? Dugu Butian asked. Yes. Yen Wudi nodded. They, I, and the ancestors of the Dugu clan all have one goal in mind, to mend the heavens. Dugu Butian said. Mending the heavens? Yen Wudi was confused. There was a great calamity in the ancient times. The heavens died and the heavenly Tao collapsed. Goddess Xichen sacrificed herself to save the world. The calamity has only been blocked. There will be a day when it will come again. At that time, everything will be destroyed, said Dugu Butian. Yen Wudi listened carefully. Ancestor Dugu felt the calamity of the world and made a great vow. He swore to mend the heavenly Tao and fight for the vitality of the world. He changed his name to Dugu Butian. Generations of ancestors never stopped trying to achieve this goal. Unfortunately, an unfilial son, Dugu Butian, betrayed the clan and ruined my lineage. After that, I had no intention of obtaining the ancestors' legacy and continuing my unfinished business. Dugu Butian? You want to mend the collapsed heavenly Tao? The emperor said in surprise. Dugu Butian looked at Yenwudi. Everyone thought that I would cause trouble for Dugu Butian, but how could the ancestor give me the time to do so? For peace, I brought 9 people into this world and reorganized the Dugu clan. All the talented disciples came to Heaven Mending Palace to mend the heavens with me. Dugu Butian recalled. Chapter 780. It has been 20,000 years. All the talented disciples have exhausted themselves to mend the heavens. Even I have exhausted myself, but in the end we succeeded. Although it is only a Tao seed, as long as someone inherits it, it will germinate and strengthen the world. Dugu Butian said with pride. The Tao seed can't be inherited by those without great talent. I set up the sword tomb to test the disciples of the clan. If you have great talent, the sword tomb won't be difficult. If your cultivation is weak, the sword tomb's power will be weak. If your cultivation is strong, the sword tomb's power will be strong. Anyone below the upper void realm who can pass the sword tomb is a great talent, and I will let them inherit it. Unfortunately, it has been a year and no one has been able to enter. Patriarch, Yenwudi frowned. I can see that you haven't experienced the sword tomb, but you have great luck. In my opinion, luck is a type of talent. Dugu Butian said. Yes. Yenwudi nodded. Come here, child. Dugu Butian called out. Yenwudi walked forward and knelt before Dugu Butian. Dugu Butian looked at Yenwudi. We were all born in a bad era. The heavens are dead, the heavenly Tao has collapsed, all life is like grass, and all life is fragile. However, this is still our world. Dugu Wudi, I'll give you the world we created. I hope that you will use your life to strengthen this Tao seed and fight for peace for all life. Dugu Butian bemoaned the state of the universe and pitted the fate of all life. Patriarch, although I don't understand what you just said, I will always remember your words. I will never forget them. Yenwudi said. My Tao is not alone. I'm not the only one who mends the heavens. In the future, if you meet someone who has the same Tao as you must do your best to help them. All those who mend the heavens are the hope of our world. Dugu Butian sighed. Yes, I will remember it. Yenwudi affirmed. Dugu Butian nodded and slowly loosened his clenched fist, revealing a 13-colored speck of light in his palm. As soon as the 13 colored specks of light appeared, they seemed to be incompatible with the surrounding light. Dugu Butian pressed the dot of light into Yenwudi's forehead. This is a Tao seed. Right now, it is extremely weak. You must let it grow, you must let it grow strong. Only then will my Dugu world's ancestors and us die a worthy death. Dugu Butian said. As he spoke, Dugu Butian loosened his withered hand. Buzz. Yenwudi's entire body floated in the air, emitting a soft white light. It was as if he had entered a wonderful realm. He closed his eyes and remained motionless. Yen Chuan and Emperor naturally stood aside and didn't say anything. Yenwudi floated in the air, while Dugu Butian looked outside the gate. Disciples of the Dugu clan, all of you, come to Heaven Mending Palace. Dugu Mending Tian said in a hoarse voice. Rumble. Outside, at the sword mound, the divine swords dancing in the sky all fell down. The barrier of the sword mound was completely removed. Countless disciples of the Dugu clan suddenly heard a voice. This is Patriarch's voice? Patriarch wants us to go to Heaven Mending Palace. Did I hear it wrong? Although there were many doubts, they still had to go to Heaven Mending Palace. Chapter 781. In front of the heaven-mending hall. As long as the Dugu family members were not outside, they were all present. More than 30,000 of them stood respectfully outside the heaven-mending hall. The hall masters stood at the front. Beside them were the corpses of the 9 sword halls Dugu Tianji, Dugu Tianyao, and the others. The hall masters were silent. They all understood that today was the day that would decide the future of the Dugu family. Kwang! The doors of the hall opened with a loud bang. Everyone looked over, and their expressions all changed. How can this be? Everyone exclaimed. However, their respect for Dugu Butian calmed the commotion down quickly. Dugu Butian looked out of the hall. On one side stood Yen Chuan and the Emperor, and on the other side stood Yen Wudi. Yen Wudi bowed respectfully to Dugu Butian. Dugu family members, listen up. Dugu Butian said softly. Although his voice was soft, it resounded like thunder in the Dugu family. From today onwards, Dugu Wudi is the next patriarch. All of you shall listen to his orders. Dugu Butian said again. Patriarch? Next patriarch? Dugu Wudi? Yen Wudi? How can this be? The Dugu family members were all shocked. Patriarch, you can't. Dugu Wudi is not of our Dugu family's bloodline. Patriarch, Dugu Wudi's original name is Yen Wudi. He is not a member of the Dugu family. Instantly, the hall masters cried out, letting an outsider be the patriarch? How can this be? Yen Wudi, Yen Chuan, and the Emperor did not speak. Dugu Butian looked at the people outside the hall. Did you hear what I said? Dugu Butian said indifferently. Dugu Butian emphasized again. Instantly, the hall masters' faces turned ugly. Yes, we pay our respects to the family head. The 2 sword veins immediately bowed respectfully to Yen Wudi. Since Dugu Butian had spoken, the 2 sword veins would naturally obey wholeheartedly. The other hall master's eyes flashed with unwillingness. However, in front of Dugu Butian, no one dared to act up. Yes, I will follow the orders of the family head. He bowed respectfully to Dugu Butian. Dugu Butian, Dugu Butian. Dugu Butian turned to Yen Wudi. Wudi. Dugu Butian said solemnly. Here. Yen Wudi said respectfully. I'll leave the Dugu family to you. I hope you treat them well. Dugu Butian sighed. Yen Wudi's face turned solemn. Don't worry, patriarch. The Dugu family is my family. Wudi will never do anything to harm the Dugu family. I swear, heaven and earth will be my witness. Dugu Dugu Tian lightly. Dugu 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 Wudi were Dugu Dugu heavens were than that Wudi. Dugu Dugu Dugu. As long as Wudi is alive, I will work hard for it. Yen Wudi said solemnly. Good, good. Dugu Butian showed a trace of relief. Give me your sword. Dugu Butian said. Yen Wudi immediately handed over the azure sword. Dugu Butian gently waved his hand. The white longsword floating in the center of the hall suddenly flew down and stopped in front of Dugu Butian. Butian, it's time to pass on your legacy. My generation didn't let you shine. I hope you can shine brightly in the next generation. Dugu Butian said with some reluctance. Whoosh! The white longsword rubbed against Dugu Butian as if it was reluctant to part with him. Fuse. Butian, you have your own mission. Dugu Butian sighed. Chapter 782. Hum! The white heaven-mending sword suddenly hummed. Countless sword cries could be heard from outside the hall as the cries reverberated. All the swords in the sword mound began humming. In fact, the swords of the 30,000 Dugu family disciples began to vibrate. Hum hum hum! The humming of swords could be heard everywhere. It was as if all the swords were worshipping the heaven-mending sword. Only 3 swords didn't tremble. Yen Wudi's azulate sword, and Yen Chuan's Emperor and Jade Emperor swords. Under everyone's gaze, the heaven-mending sword suddenly melted into a liquid and flowed into the azulate sword. The azulate sword was changing rapidly. Its shape remained the same, but its color turned white and emitted a gentle glow. The heaven-mending sword and the azulate sword had merged. Only the white sword was left in the air. Woody, this is the heaven-mending sword that has been passed down for generations. It has a spirit and only recognizes its master. From now on, you are the head of the Dugu family. Treat it well. Dugu Butian handed over the heaven-mending sword. Outside the hall master's eyes flashed with reluctance. This was the proof of the head of the family. Yes. Yen Wudi received it respectfully. After explaining everything, Dugu Butian looked at the 30,000 people outside the hall again. I have nothing else to give you, disciples of the Dugu family. I'll leave each of you with a sword in tent. I hope you can assist Dugu Wudi well and fulfill my lifelong wish. Dugu Butian sighed. 2 beams of sword light shot out from his eyes. The 2 beams of sword light turned into 4, then into 8. They rapidly expanded and shot toward everyone outside the hall. 10,000 swords shot out and instantly shot into the bodies of the Dugu family disciples. Everyone closed their eyes. Sword chi surged from their bodies, as if they had comprehended a supreme technique. At this moment, Dugu Butian used up the last drop of his life. With a smile, he slowly closed his eyes and turned into a withered corpse. Head of the family. Yen Wudi immediately knelt down. Yen Wudi kowtowed 3 times to Dugu Butian's corpse. As for Yen Chuan and Emperor, they bowed respectfully to Dugu Butian. Although Dugu Butian was dead, he had deeply shocked Yen Chuan. For the world, for the people, 4 generations. Not for a lifetime but for a breath. Such a breadth of mind. This was the first time Yen Chuan saw it. 10 days later, outside the Dugu family. When Yen Chuan was about to leave, Yen Wudi walked him out. Wudi, you can leave. Yen Chuan said. Yes, Uncle Chuan. I'm now the head of the family, but I'm worried that some people won't accept it. Looking at Yen Wudi, Yen Chuan smiled faintly. Not convinced? That's because your master isn't qualified. Wudi, this is your first step. I hope that when you come back to help me, you will not only be amazing in Sword Dao. This place, the Dugu family, is your best starting point. I believe in you. You will handle everything well. Remember, force can't solve everything, you have to use your brain. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Yes, Uncle Chuan, don't worry. Yen Wudi said firmly. After bidding farewell to Yen Wudi, Yen Chuan set off again. The flying boat flew in the air. Yen Chuan stood at the bow of the boat. Butian? Dugu Butian? Yen Chuan's mind could not calm down for a long time. Chapter 783. Atlas Studios East Divine Continent. It was a quiet forest. Heaven and Earth Yuan Qi was extremely dense around the forest. Some places were even covered in fog. This was not fog, but Heaven and Earth Yuan Qi. It was so dense that it was about to turn into liquid. It was more than 100 times denser than Yen Chuan's #1 abode in the world. There were birds and insects around. However, the strange thing was that even with such dense Heaven and Earth Yuan Qi, no animals evolved into demon beasts. The main part of this forest was a huge valley. Outside the valley, there was a huge tablet with the words Jingxi Valley written on it. Outside Jingxi Valley, there was a figure kneeling on one knee. If the experts of the East Divine Continent saw this, they would be shocked. That was because the figure kneeling on one knee was extremely famous in the East Divine Continent. Gu Yu, Holy Son of the Dezhao Holy Ground. He had interacted with Yen Chuan many times and was a Middle Void Realm expert. This person was not famous for his cultivation, but his status. As the son of Mohina Dojin and the Holy Son of the Holy Ground, he had many supporters. At this moment, Gu Yu Holy Son was kneeling respectfully outside Jingxi Valley. Swish! Another silver light landed beside Gu Yu Holy Son. Greetings, Tao Lord Yu Yu. Gu Yu Holy Son called out to the newcomer. The newcomer was Tao Lord Yu Yu, who had experienced the battle with the Ghost Emperor in the South Divine Continent not long ago. Tao Lord Yu nodded to Gu Yu Holy Sun. Then, he waved his long sleeves and knelt on one knee. He faced Jingxi Valley. If Gu Yu Holy Sun's kneeling could shock the experts of the East Divine Continent, Tao Lord Yu's kneeling was not a matter of shock. Tao Lord Yu was one of the strongest people in the world. At this moment, he was kneeling on one knee? I wish you good fortune, Holy Master. I hope I didn't disturb you. Tao Lord Yu called out to the valley respectfully. A voice sounded from Jingxi Valley. I'm watering the flowers. What's the matter? Speak. It was the voice of a woman. There was a hint of experience in her voice, and she sounded condescending. Tao Lord Yu did not feel insulted. Instead, she heaved a sigh of relief. Reporting to the Holy Lord, Yu has just returned from the Southern Divine Continent. A Ghost Emperor has appeared in the Southern Divine Continent, King Guaiyu. He came from the netherworld of the Immortal World, the Great Nightmare Dynasty. Tao Lord Yu recounted the entire process of this trip in detail. Impartiality. Got it. A woman's lazy voice came from Jingxi Valley. He didn't seem to care. A hint of anxiety appeared on Tao Lord Yu's face. Holy Lord, this person is King Guai. He's extremely powerful and your subordinate is no match for him. Furthermore, his ambition is huge and you can see it from Li Songhai's arrangements. Holy Lord, you have to be careful. Tao Lord Yu said worriedly. Defend? He's not qualified. A woman's disapproving voice came from Jingxi Valley. Tao Lord Yu blushed. Yes, Yu has embarrassed the Holy Lord. Tao Lord Yu said respectfully. Now, make a trip to the Northern Divine Continent's Celestial Mysteries sect on my behalf. The woman's voice rang out from Jingxi Valley once more. Holy Lord, please give your orders. Just say that I want to practice the heaven-piercing spear, and tell them that they are not allowed to deduce the mysteries of heaven during this period. The woman's voice sounded again. Yes. Tao Lord Yu felt proud. Celestial Mysteries sect? Fate cultivation sects were equivalent to the various holy grounds and were one of the top forces in the world. However, the Holy Lord could order them around with a single word. This was the number one person in the world. I'll take my leave. Tao Lord Yu said solemnly. Go on. Tao Lord Yu retreated. Gu Yu Holy Sun, who was kneeling at the side, looked at Jingxi Valley with admiration. Chapter 784. Yang Gu Yu. The woman's voice sounded again. Yes, yes. Gu Yu Holy Sun said nervously. Years ago, I once placed a great boundary-suppressing stele in the Central Divine Continent. I don't know who stole it, but I have calculated that the thief is near the Archaean sect's sacred grounds. I am giving you a decree. Go to the Archaean sect's sacred grounds immediately and find the thief. Execute him on the spot. Anyone who resists will have their entire family executed. Go to other sacred grounds to kill? Yes. Gu Yu Holy Sun said excitedly. He was excited that the Holy Lord had assigned him such an important task. 2 years later. On the airship where Yan Chuan was. Your Majesty, Her Majesty has left. Huguang said. I know. Yan Chuan nodded. I can see that Her Majesty is very powerful. Why didn't you try to persuade her to join the court? Huguang asked doubtfully. She won't be willing to be under anyone. Yan Chuan shook his head. Yes. Your Majesty, I have asked around about that city. We are on the right track. We will be near the Archaean sect's sacred grounds soon. Huguang said. We are almost there? Yan Chuan stood up. Yan Chuan walked out of the hall and to the bow of the airship. He looked into the distance. The Archaean sect's sacred grounds is right in front of us. Huguang said. Yan Chuan looked into the distance. There were layers upon layers of mountains that stretched as far as the eye could see. He could only see a huge city in the distance. Go to that city and find out where Meng Hongying's residence is, Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Yes. Hua Guang quickly left with a few people. The airship found a secluded valley and stopped. For half a day, Hua Guang returned. Your Majesty, Meng Hongying's residence is north. After 3 cities you will reach it, Hua Guang said. Yes. However, Your Majesty, this subject has also heard another piece of news, Hua Guang suddenly said with a frown. A 3-legged golden crow has appeared about 100,000 kilometers to the east of U.S., Hua Guang said. 3-legged golden crow? Jindiu? Yan Chuan asked in surprise. Jindiu, the original founder of the Great Winged Heaven School, was later released by Yan Chuan in the Sea of Providence. I'm not sure, but I think it's him. That's the mouth of a volcano. Someone discovered a 3-legged golden crow rolling around in the volcano. The news spread to the nearby cities and immediately attracted the attention of the divine sect. They even sent a large number of experts to surround and annihilate it. They should be engaged in a fierce battle right now, Hua Guang said solemnly. Let's go, we'll talk as we walk, Yan Chuan immediately ordered. Yes. The flying boat took off again. Mouth of a volcano? It seems that Jindiu went there to treat his injuries. He didn't want to be seen by others. Did you find out who went to surround and annihilate him? Yan Chuan asked solemnly. To be precise, it should be an encirclement. Last time, Meng Hongying mentioned that there are 10 divine palaces in the divine sect. A, B, C, D, E, G, Gung, Xin, Ren, and Gui. The one who has his eyes on Jindiu is the son of the Gui Divine Palace's palace master, the Holy Son of Outyin. Hua Guang explained. The Holy Son of Outyin? Yan Chuan asked curiously. He gave himself that title. Hua Guang also said curiously. He gave himself that title? Yes, this person is extremely pompous. He relied on the favor of the Gui Divine Palace's palace master to abuse his power. He even called himself the Holy Son of Outyin. In fact, his cultivation is only in the immortal realm, but he's narrow-minded and vengeful. There was once someone who was dissatisfied with the behavior of the Holy Son of Outyin. After saying a few words of justice, the Holy Son of Outyin annihilated his entire family. Hua Guang said with disgust. Such a person can be the Holy Son? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Who told the Gui Divine Palace's palace master to only have one son? Hua Guang smiled bitterly. Chapter 785. It didn't take long for them to arrive at their destination. Standing on the airship, they could see flames and smoke billowing into the sky. Between the flying sand and rocks, they could see an intense battle taking place. 5 peerless experts were besieging a 3-legged golden crow. Boom! Everything in their path was in ruins. Mountains collapsed, rivers were broken, volcanoes erupted, and lava shot out in all directions. Wah! The 3-legged golden crow cried out angrily. It waved its wings, and rays of golden light shot towards the 5 experts. However, the 5 peerless experts were no weaker than it, and each of them was using all their strength to attack it. The 3-legged golden crow was already covered in wounds. Ha ha ha, evil creature, you should just surrender, one of them shouted excitedly. The 3-legged golden crow twisted its body stubbornly, trying to avoid the attacks of the 5 experts. Not far away, on the peak of a mountain, stood 4 figures. Their eyes were sharp as they looked at the battlefield. In front of the 4 of them was a chair made of tiger skin. On it sat a rather handsome youth. The young man looked excited. 3-legged golden crow? Ha ha, the other Holy Son all have mounts, demon leopard, demon ox, and demon bat. My mount must be better than them. 3-legged golden crow? I can't believe there's such a monster near my holy land. Ha! The young man shouted excitedly. Evil creature, it's your honor to be the mount of the Holy Son, Ao Tian. Why don't you surrender? Are you hurt? If you become my mount, I'll give you the best medicine to heal your injuries. The young man shouted. The three-legged golden crow twisted its body and looked at Aotion Holy Sun angrily. You want to subdue me? Dream on. The three-legged golden crow roared. Bastard? Who are you calling a bastard? Aotion Holy Sun's face suddenly turned cold. Wah! The three-legged golden crow let out a long cry, no longer paying attention to the proud Heaven Holy Sun, and once again began to fight with the five people. Let me ask you, is he cursing me? The proud Heaven Holy Sun looked at the person behind him and said. The man had a strange look on his face, but he nodded and said, Holy Sun, it seems so. Scold me? The Holy Sun glared at proud Heaven and proud Heaven. Arg! Bastard! You two, go capture it. I'm going to pluck its feathers and cook it tonight. The faces of the four people behind proud Heaven Holy Sun stiffened. Proud Heaven's Holy Sun's character is exaggerated and capricious. Just now he wanted to subdue the three-legged golden crow, and now he wants to eat it? What are you waiting for? Proud Holy Sun shouted. Holy Sun, Palace Master, we will protect you. The four of them shouted. Safe? Do I need your protection? I'm proud Heaven's Holy Sun. Who dares to hurt me? If you don't go, I'll go back and tell my father that you beat me up and forced me to keep it a secret. Proud Heaven Holy Sun shouted. Two of them sighed bitterly, then nodded and said, Yes. Whoosh. The two of them quickly flew to the battlefield. The three-legged golden crow was already in a difficult situation when fighting against 5 experts. Now there were 2 more, making it 1 against 7. He was in an even more difficult situation, and the wounds on his body were increasing rapidly. Roar! The three-legged golden crow roared in grief. In the distance, Yan Chuan, Huoguang, and the others hid their airship in the valley, frowning as they watched. It really is Jin Yu. Yan Chuan's face darkened. Chapter 786. Your Majesty, should we save them? Huoguang frowned and asked worriedly. Save them? Yan Chuan said affirmatively. But those people are all at the middle void stage. Do you want me to wake Feng Yinyang up? He's been in seclusion for a long time. Huoguang asked. No need. Feng Yinyang rarely goes into seclusion. Don't disturb him. Yan Chuan shook his head. Yan Chuan looked at Aotion's Holy Sun. Huoguang instantly understood Yan Chuan's meaning. Your Majesty, to catch the bandits, first catch the ringleader? Huoguang's expression changed. That's right. This is Aotion's Holy Sun? Ha! He's really spoiled. Yan Chuan revealed a strange smile. Your Majesty, this is the Divine Sect's Holy Land. This Aotion's Holy Sun seems to be too spoiled. 9 middle void stage martial artists to protect him? That's too exaggerated. Isn't it too unworthy to deal with him? Moreover, isn't it too risky? Huoguang said worriedly. Yan Chuan smiled and looked at the battlefield in the distance. What do you think of Jin Yu? Strong. Even with an injured body, he can still contend with 7 middle void stage martial artists. Too fierce. Huoguang said in a deep voice. Haha, on one side is Aotion's Holy Sun, who has no interest in me. On the other side is Jin Yu, whom I want to subdue. How can it be unworthy? Taking risks? What doesn't require taking risks in this world? Yan Chuan said indifferently. Yes. Huoguang took a deep breath and answered. Your Majesty, what should we do now? Huoguang asked doubtfully. Wait. Yan Chuan said affirmatively. Wait. Jin Yu's potential is limitless. Although we have 2 more middle void stage experts, we may not be able to capture him in a short period of time. That Holy Sun of Aotion is too impetuous. Impetuosity is his fatal flaw. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Off in the distance, proud Heaven's Holy Sun sat in his chair, clearly irritated by the fact that Jin Yu had yet to be taken down. Trash. 7 people can't even catch a beast. Proud Heaven Holy Sun grumbled. The 2 middle void stage experts behind Aotion Holy Sun sighed. Everyone felt helpless when they had to deal with the guard. Wow. Jean Du swiftly fled to the side, but how could the 7 middle void stage martial artists let him escape just like that? Evil creature, if you don't surrender now, we won't hold back anymore. An expert roared. Roar. Surrender without a fight? Jean Du would rather die in battle. The battle became more and more deadlocked. Trash. 7 people can't even catch this beast? You two, go and capture him. Proud Heaven Holy Sun said irritably. Holy Sun, you can't. We'll protect you. The 2 quickly shook their heads. Do I need your protection? Go. Proud Heaven Holy Sun said angrily. No. The 2 shook their heads. You won't listen to me? I'll go back and tell Father that you 2 tried to kill me, so he won't teach you cultivation techniques anymore. In the future, Father won't allow you to attend his lectures. He might even expel you from the Holy Lands. Proud Heaven Holy Sun said ruthlessly. The 2's faces turned ugly. Holy Sun, the 2 said bitterly. Why haven't you gone yet? Proud Heaven Holy Sun shouted. The 2 exchanged a glance and sighed. One of them said, Holy Sun, he'll go help the others. I'll stay here. This is our bottom line. No, he's not as strong as you. How can he catch that beast? You go catch that beast. Proud Heaven Holy Sun shouted. The 2 looked at each other and bitterly said, Yes. Whoosh. Another person charged into the battlefield to capture Jean Du. Not far away in the valley, Yen Chuan saw this scene and laughed. Now we can. Whoosh. Yen Chuan and Hu Guang rushed out of the forest and toward the mountain peak. Chapter 787. Who are you? The last guard standing behind Aotion Holy Sun was shocked. He turned around and threw a punch at Chen Xiaobei. Jade Emperor's Sword Array! Boom! The Jade Emperor's sword array exploded, and sword chi surrounded the middle ethereal stage expert. Bastard! The middle ethereal stage expert attacked the Jade Emperor's sword array furiously. The Jade Emperor's sword array was pushed back. The middle ethereal stage expert was furious. Immortal state? How dare you attack me? You must be tired of living. He was about to step forward when Yen Chuan smiled and gestured to the other side. The middle ethereal stage expert turned his head away. What are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Aotion Holy Sun roared. Hu Guang's spear was pointed at Aotion Holy Sun's head. If Aotion Holy Sun moved, the spear would pierce his head. I am Aotion Holy Sun. How dare you touch me? How dare you point your spear at me? I want you dead. Aotion Holy Sun roared. But Chen Xiaobei swung the spear at Aotion Holy Sun's face. The force behind the spear twisted Aotion Holy Sun's mouth and knocked 3 of his teeth out. You? How dare you hit me? Aotion Holy Sun covered his face in disbelief. What's wrong with hitting you? If you keep talking, I will pierce your head. Hu Guang said coldly. My father is the palace master of 10th God Palace. He will kill you. Aotion Holy Sun roared. Do you think I won't kill you right now? Hu Guang said coldly. The proud Sky Holy Sun's expression changed when the spear was pressed against his head. Looking at Hu Guang's cold eyes, the proud Sky Holy Sun felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. No one had ever dared to speak to him like this before. Moreover, they even had the power to decide his life and death. Wu, quickly call me father, quickly call me father. The proud Heaven Holy Sun cried out in horror. Stop! What are you doing? He's proud Heaven's Holy Sun. This is the territory of the divine sect. If even a single hair on proud Heaven's Holy Sun is harmed, you'll all die. If I lose even a hair, I'll die? Did the few front teeth that were knocked out just now count? Oh no, if we're all going to die, then what's the point of keeping this kid alive? Hu Guang, why don't we just kill him? Yen Chuan smiled as he flew over. Don't. That expert's expression changed as he cried out in horror. Yen Chuan flew over and reached out with his hand, sealing Proud Heaven's Holy Sun's cultivation base in the blink of an eye. The Middle Void stage expert's face twitched violently. 2 God State warriors? These 2 are just in the divine realm? He actually dared to restrain Proud Heaven's Holy Sun? What are you doing? As long as you release the Holy Sun, everything will be fine. That expert said anxiously. Let them stop first. Yen Chuan said calmly. That expert immediately shouted, Stop! Everyone, stop! Hearing that expert shout, the 8 experts in the battle all frowned. The 3-legged golden crow was dying. At this time, as long as they put in more effort, they would be able to take down the 3-legged golden crow. Everyone turned their heads to look in displeasure. At first glance, everyone's expression changed drastically, and their hair stood on end. Bang! The 8 experts quickly flew away and looked at Proud Heaven's Holy Sun in horror. Who are you? What are you doing? Bastard! Release Proud Heaven's Holy Sun! Everyone shouted in horror. On the other side, the 3-legged golden crow was about to die. Suddenly, the battle stopped. The 3-legged golden crow was slightly stunned and turned around. Proud Heaven Holy Sun, who was incomparably arrogant before, was captured. Chapter 788. Yen Chuan. The 3-legged golden crow's face changed. The 3-legged golden crow had thought of many possible outcomes for today's disaster. He could die in battle, be captured, or even be rescued, but it couldn't be Yen Chuan. Jindu, you're safe now. You can go now. Yen Chuan suddenly looked at Jindu with a smile. Jindu's figure flickered and turned into a golden-robed man. However, this golden-robed man was covered in wounds and extremely weak. Go. Jindu took a step forward and was about to leave. However, when he looked at Yen Chuan, who was surrounded by 9 Middle Void Realm experts, his face sank. Ha 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 ha, my Jin clan has never had a coward. Yen Chuan, I won't accept your kindness. Jindu said stubbornly. Then, he stepped toward Yen Chuan and Huoguang. Divine Realm? He was saved by 2 Divine Realm experts, and he had to run away? Jindu couldn't accept it. If he ran away, it would be admitting that he was a coward. He couldn't even compare to 2 Divine Realm experts. This shadow would follow him for the rest of his life. With Jindu's pride, he couldn't accept it. Jindu flew over. The 9 Middle Void Realm experts were still coldly looking at Yen Chuan. Release Aotion's Holy Sun. Otherwise, don't blame me for making a move. A Middle Void Realm expert said coldly. Make a move? Aotion's Holy Sun is in my hands. Do you dare? Yen Chuan said coldly. Humph, you want to threaten me with Aotion's Holy Sun? You're still too inexperienced. The old man said coldly. Then, the old man waved the long sword in his hand and was about to stab. The other 8 Middle Void Realm experts were also about to make a move. Ah! Aotion's Holy Sun suddenly screamed. Huoguang's spear stabbed Aotion's Holy Sun's leg. Blood gushed out. I'm sorry, Proud Heaven Holy Sun. This old man scared me. My hand trembled and the spear stabbed you. If you want to blame someone, blame him. Huoguang said with a look of shame. The faces of the Emptiness Realm experts on the other side darkened. Are you scared? Whoa! The Proud Sky Holy Sun cried out in pain. At the same time, he couldn't help but glare at the old man with resentment. The old man opened his mouth and bitterly took a step back. What do you want? Did he come for the 3-legged golden crow? Now that the 3-legged golden crow has been saved, it is better to release the Holy Sun. We promise not to pursue the matter. The old man immediately shouted. Do I have the word gullible written on my face? Yen Chuan laughed. The old man's face turned red. Then what do you want? We can't stay here for long. Everyone, come with me. Let's find a safe place first, and then we can slowly discuss," Yen Chuan said with a smile. The emptiness realm experts had strange expressions on their faces. "These two bastards are too bold." "Okay." The old man nodded. Rumble. A huge flying boat was flying over at high speed. Yen Chuan, Huaguang, and Proud Heaven Holy Sun boarded the flying boat. Jin Du also boarded the flying boat with a strange look on his face. The flying boat flew, and the 9 emptiness realm experts followed closely behind. They quickly left this place. "Lord Du, it's a small world. We meet again?" Yen Chuan said with a smile. This time, he was almost dead, but he was saved by a little immortal realm expert? Jin Du looked at Yen Chuan with a complicated expression. The first time, he destroyed the Great Winged Heaven School, the second time, he was stabbed, and the third time, he was saved? Was he really not as good as Yen Chuan? "You want to subdue me at this time?" Jin Du said with a gloomy face. "Will I, Yen Chuan, take advantage of other people's difficulties? If I did, I wouldn't have let you go last time," Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Chapter 789. Jin Du's expression was complicated. Yen Chuan turned around and looked at Aotion's Holy Son. "Aotion's Holy Son, I heard you say that you have many treasures and can heal Jin Du's injuries? I wonder if you can." Yen Chuan looked at Aotion's Holy Son amiably. Aotion's Holy Son stopped crying and looked at the group of villains in horror. With Huaguang's constant anxiety, Aotion's Holy Son had suffered a lot. With Aotion's Holy Son's temperament, how could he have the strength of character? He quickly poured out all kinds of spiritual pills and treasures from his storage treasures. Yen Chuan handed a large number of treasures to Jin Du. Jin Du looked at the treasures in front of him and didn't know what to say. He wanted to refuse, but it was too pretentious. After all, he was injured all over. "I will pay you back in the future," Jin Du said in a low voice. Seeing Jin Du put away all kinds of healing pills, Yen Chuan nodded and said, "Jin Du, your healing hall is ready. You can go in and heal your injuries, but there is something I have to say." Jin Du looked at Yen Chuan in confusion. 3-legged golden crows may have a glorious history, but people can't live in the past. If you want to restore the glory of 3-legged golden crows, you have to be down to earth and work hard. Maybe your generation won't succeed, but your generation can strengthen the foundation and become stronger generation after generation. As long as you work hard for tomorrow, there will be a day when you can turn things around. That's all I have to say. Go and heal your injuries." Yen Chuan took a deep breath and said. Jin Du looked at Yen Chuan with a complicated expression. No one had ever said these words to him before. His father had taught him not to forget his glory, but was it enough just to not forget it? Jin Du took a deep breath and nodded. He followed a soldier to a hall. What do you want?" "My father is the leader of 10th Divine Hall. If something happens to me, my father won't let you go. What do you want?" "I can give it to you." "Saintess, do you want it?" "I can get a holy maiden in divine sect for you as long as you let me go." Aotion Holy Son shouted in fear. "Oh? You can even get a saintess?" Yen Chuan laughed. "That's right. As long as you don't have a powerful backer, I can get you a talented holy maiden. You can blaspheme them however you want. Please let me go." Proud Heaven's Holy Son begged. "No need. Proud Heaven Holy Son, if I let you go, I'll be in danger." Yen Chuan shook his head. On the other side, at the stern of the ship, 9 Middle Void stage martial artists followed with gloomy expressions. "Senior brother, I'll go back and report to Master. You guys continue to follow." Someone shouted. The 9 of them looked at each other and finally nodded. Just as everyone was about to leave, Huaguang appeared and said in a loud voice, "Everyone, you're not going to send a message, are you?" The faces of the 9 people stiffened. "We're watching you. If one of you is missing, we'll cut off one of Proud Heaven's Holy Son's legs. You can leave, but I don't know how many legs proud heaven's holy son has to cut off. Huguang laughed. The 9 people's faces changed. Bastard! Have you thought about the consequences? Do you know the consequences of going against 10th God Hall? The leading old man roared. Consequences? I don't know, but I know what will happen to us if we let proud heaven's holy son go. Huguang laughed. Everyone looked helpless. Of course, they couldn't just let this matter go. Let them go? As long as proud heaven's holy son was safe, 10th God Hall would take revenge. On the other side, proud heaven's holy son's cultivation base was sealed. At this moment, Yan Chuan invited him to a large hall. What do you want? Proud heaven's holy son asked with an ugly expression. It's nothing. Come, sit down and have some tea. Relax and tell me about your divine sect sacred grounds. Yan Chuan greeted with a smile. Chapter 790. It was a huge valley. Yan Chuan's airship stopped beside a large lake. In the distance, the 9 great void stage experts glanced at each other, and all of their eyes revealed bewilderment. Senior brother, it's been 2 months. What are these people doing? Yes, brother. What do they want to do with the Holy Son? Senior brother, should we inform the hall master? The 9 people discussed in low voices. The old man in the lead shook his head and said, The hall master has assigned the 9 of us to protect the Holy Son. We have already failed in our mission and will be punished by the hall master when we return. However, as long as the Holy Son is safe, we can bear any punishment. However, if we act rashly and the Holy Son loses a leg or an arm, we will not be able to escape the blame. But everyone was still worried. No buts. We'll be punished if we go back and report, and we'll also be punished if we stay here. It's better not to anger this group of people. Moreover, we've been missing for 2 months. On the other hand, the palace master must have sent people to look for us. The old man said, Don't worry. As long as we keep the Holy Son safe, the temple master will be able to find us soon, the old man said solemnly. Yes. The safety of the Holy Son is our top priority. Everyone nodded. At this moment, a black-robed man slowly walked over. It was Feng Yinyang. Feng Yinyang walked to the front of the crowd and took a step forward. Buzz. A compass pattern was formed on the ground. The earth trembled slightly. Everyone, please make way. I'm going to set up a formation, Feng Yinyang said calmly. The faces of the 9 middle void stage martial artists turned unsightly. They made way for Feng Yinyang to continue setting up the formation. The 9 middle void stage experts walked to the side with awkward expressions. Senior brother, is he setting up a feng shui array? Should we arrest him? Yes, capture him and trade him for the Holy Son. Everyone whispered among themselves. No. The leading old man immediately stopped everyone. So what if you captured a feng shui master? What if we can't save the Holy Son and infuriate them and hurt the Holy Son? What should we do then? The leading old man asked in a low voice. Everyone's face sank. What's more, even if the Holy Son is saved, our failure will not be mitigated. What's the difference between saving him and not saving him? It wouldn't be long before the hall master would be able to find them. Wouldn't it be better for the hall master to save the Holy Son? That way, at least the young temple master will understand that we were also forced. The old man explained. Everyone's expression suddenly became serious, and they all nodded. Feng Yinyang continued to set up the formation. The 9 middle void stage martial artists could only watch from the side. Everyone, please make way. We haven't set up the formation here yet. Feng Yinyang walked up again. The 9 middle void stage martial artists stepped aside, speechless. If it weren't for that little ancestor, would they have fallen to such a state? On the flying boat, in front of the main hall where Jindu was. Your Majesty, you mustn't. Jindu is in danger. Huguang stopped Yan Chuan. Don't worry. Yan Chuan shook his head. After saying that, Yan Chuan stepped into the main hall where Jin Du was. Bang! The door of the main hall slammed shut. Hades Emperor, please, Jin Du said in a low voice. There was a table in the middle of the main hall with tea on it. Jin Du was in high spirits at this moment. He nodded. Yan Chuan swung his robe and sat down slowly. Jin Du, are you feeling better? Yan Chuan smiled. Yan Chuan didn't stand on ceremony with the tea on the table. He picked it up and took a sip. Chapter 791. Jin Du looked at Yan Chuan with a complicated expression on his face. 70% done. Proud heavens, holy son really has a lot of treasures. The treasures he has on him are comparable to the treasures of a middle-level sect leader. Jin Du sighed. Congratulations! Yan Chuan smiled. Hades Emperor, why are you helping me? Jin Du asked. Why do you think I let you go back then? Yan Chuan stared at Jin Du and smiled. Jin Du frowned. Hades Emperor, I've said it before. I will never submit to Great Zhen. Jin Du shook his head. Why? Yan Chuan smiled. Jin Du fell silent. Yan Chuan put down his teacup and his face became serious. Jin Du, I know that you are arrogant. I can see that your backbone comes from the glory in your heart, from your ancestor. However, your ancestor is still your ancestor. Do you think that you can reach the heights of your ancestor? Yan Chuan asked in a low voice. Of course I can't be compared to my ancestors. Jin Du shook his head, but his eyes flashed with unwillingness. Even the glory of your ancestor will fall one day. Even your ancestor couldn't resist the will of the heavens. Can you reverse it? Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Jin Du took a deep breath. There was a moment of silence. No one is born to be number one in the world. Every number one in the world has to go through a long process of growth. In comparison, you're still too weak. Even I, Great Zhen, am too weak. However, we can grow, we can become stronger. One day we will stand at the peak of the world. Yan Chuan said solemnly. The peak of the world? Jin Du looked bitter. He had almost died several times, but it was like a joke to him. You have the potential, but you don't have the means. You don't have the platform to display your talent. Come to Great Zhen. I'll give you a platform. Yan Chuan persuaded again. You're giving me a platform? Jin Du frowned. That's right. I'll give you a platform, the best platform. I'll let you lead an army and thousands of heroes. As long as you stay in the Great Zhen Empire for 1,000 years, I won't stop you if they're willing to abandon the Great Zhen Empire and follow you. What do you think? Yan Chuan asked solemnly. Submit for 1,000 years? You want me to nurture my own faction? Jin Du asked in surprise. I'm not asking you to nurture him, I'm asking you to display your abilities. Is your charisma stronger, or is my charisma stronger? If you are stronger than De Zhen can even let you have him. Yan Chuan said with certainty. Ha 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 ha. Jin Du laughed strangely with a complicated expression. He looked at Yan Chuan who he couldn't figure out. You don't trust me? Yan Chuan laughed. Jin Du frowned, disbelief flashing in his eyes. Then you shall see if I have the right to let you stay in Great Zhen. Yan Chuan's expression froze. Roar! The will of an emperor gushed out. Jin Du seemed to see a vast golden dragon charging at him. The dragon's head was lofty and ferocious as it opened its mouth and roared. Wah! Jin Du's will suddenly erupted. A huge will of the golden crow suddenly appeared. Boom! The two wills collided with a loud bang. Roar! Wah! Boom! 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 The two wills collided violently. For a moment, the hall was filled with loud clashing sounds. Golden light illuminated the entire hall. The two wills didn't give way to each other. Jin Du knew his own will. Among cultivators of the same level, no one's will could compare to his. This was because Jin Du's will contained an intense heat that could burn his opponent's will. Chapter 792. True Sun Fire. Boom. A ring of fire suddenly appeared around the will of the golden crow. It seemed to have turned into a huge sun and rushed toward the golden dragon. Heavenly cycle of stars. 1. Countless stars suddenly appeared around the golden dragon. The endless starry sky surrounded the golden dragon as if the golden dragon was the lord of the stars. Boom. The dragon and crow collided again. The dragon swayed its tail and the crow's feathers trembled. They collided again and again. The dragon's mouth, dragon's claws, and crow's beak all became the most primitive barbaric weapons. The two wills kept colliding. Boom, 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 boom. This battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. Boom. The golden dragon clawed the back of the golden crow. Ong! The golden dragon raised its head and roared, as if to vent its victory. The will of the golden crow wriggled for a while but could not move. Phew! The golden dragon's will swayed and returned to Yen Chuan's body. The golden crow's will also slowly disappeared with a sense of unwillingness. Jindu looked at Yen Chuan in disbelief. I'm at the middle void realm. But Yen Chuan is only at the immortal state? Is the immortal state's will so much stronger than mine? Once he reaches the middle void realm, how can I be his opponent? Jindu's face was full of disappointment. Little did he know that Yen Chuan's will was at the upper void realm, which was 1 level higher than Jindu's. This was a battle without any suspense. There was no need to guess the result. Of course, Yen Chuan would not tell Jindu. What do you think, Jindu? Yen Chuan asked with a smile. Jindu said bitterly, Hades Emperor, I'm not as good as you. A deep sense of defeat enveloped Jindu. Indigen, there are more than 1 or 2 who can surpass you. Yen Chuan said with certainty. Jindu was surprised. Not just 1 or 2. Jindu originally thought that his cultivation was one of the best even in the Great Perfection realm, but what did Yen Chuan mean by that? Yen Chuan shook his head and did not explain further. After all, Jindu had yet to agree to join the Great Jin Kingdom, so what was there to say? Jindu, I don't know how glorious your ancestors were, but if you want to return to those heights, you have to be down to earth. You also need a platform and an opportunity. Yen Chuan took a deep breath and said solemnly, My Great Jin is in dire need of manpower right now. That's why I've repeatedly advised you that when my Great Jin has exhausted its manpower, if I come to recruit you again, it won't be me coming personally. Jindu's expression suddenly changed. Yen Chuan's words were very clear. Now was an opportunity. In the future, when there were many powerful officials in Great Jin, it would be the officials of Great Jin who came to recruit him. The treatment then would definitely be different from now. Jindu's expression was complicated. At this moment, he was already willing, but his pride still made it difficult for him to take this step. Are you still holding on to your past pride? That pride doesn't belong to you. It belongs to your ancestors. Your ancestors created glory, but you didn't create anything. What are you proud of? Yen Chuan advised again. Jindu's expression froze. In the end, he smiled bitterly. Jindu took a deep breath and bowed. Jindu is willing to join the Great Jin Kingdom for 1,000 years. Greetings, Your Majesty. Yen Chuan threw his teacup and stood up immediately. He quickly helped Jindu up and said, Haha, with Jindu's help, Great Jin will be like a tiger that has grown wings. The day of the Heavenly Empire is just around the corner. I've been waiting for this for a long time. You flatter me, Your Majesty. Jindu sighed. I didn't flatter you. I can see clearly that you just haven't had a place to display your talents. Great Jin will definitely help you display your talent. From today onwards, I confer Jindu as the 3rd army commander of the Great Jin dynasty. You can lead a large army with 100,000 retainers. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Jindu understood the meaning of the term army commander. It wasn't a title of nobility or an official position. However, in a country, it was more precious than any official position or nobility because the army commander was one of the country's backbone. It was equivalent to a country's founding hero. It had great authority. The third army commander was also the great importance Yen Chuan placed on him. Thank you, Your Majesty. Jean Diu officially accepted the appointment. Chapter 793. East Divine Continent, De Zhen Dynasty, Yen Capital. Above the Sea of Providence. Boom. The Sea of Providence churned violently. Yifeng and Lu Gang walked out of the main hall once again. They looked at the churning Sea of Providence. Did the Emperor take in another important official? Lu Gang asked in surprise. Yifeng nodded his head and said, "That's right. I wonder what kind of person he is to be able to make His Majesty pay so much attention to him. The Sea of Providence is churning violently." Looking at the sky, Yifeng asked again, "Lu Gang, did you check the East faction carefully?" "Don't worry, Lord Yi. There won't be any trouble in the imperial court," Lu Gang said confidently. Yifeng nodded. In another magnificent main hall in Yen capital, the former Yen Emperor, now Marquis Yen Chuyu, looked at the Sea of Providence with longing. Behind Yen Chuyu stood a black-robed figure. "Yen Emperor, no, Marquis Yen, look carefully. The De Zhen dynasty, the original De Yen, was originally yours. You can feel the providence on you. If you become the Emperor, you will have more providence on you," the black-robed figure said softly. Yen Chuyu clenched her fists and her face darkened. "All of this was originally yours," the black-robed figure whispered. Yen Chuyu's eyes flashed with jealousy. Middle Divine Continent, in a valley near the Archaean sect's sacred ground. Feng Yinyang had already set up the array. Yen Chuan was still in Jean Diu's main hall, talking to his official. "Your Majesty, although I joined the De Zhen dynasty, I hope you won't," Jean Diu said with a frown. "I need you, Jean Diu, not your ancestor. You don't have to explain to me. I believe you." Yen Chuan put down his teacup and said solemnly, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Jean Diu was relieved. Suddenly, Jean Diu's face changed. "Your Majesty, this is bad." "Quang." Jean Diu quickly opened the main hall door. He shielded Yen Chuan behind him and looked into the distance warily. "You're here?" Yen Chuan's face sank. "Yes," Jean Diu said with an ugly expression. "Rumble." Suddenly, a powerful aura descended from the sky, as if it was going to crush the entire valley into dust. In the outside world, the faces of the 9 Middle Void stage martial artists immediately lit up with joy. "The Hall Master is here! The Hall Master is here! Greetings, Hall Master!" The 9 of them respectfully bowed towards the pressure in the sky. Rumble! The oppressive void suddenly shone with a dazzling black light. The black light condensed and gradually transformed into a man in a black robe. The man's robe was wide and he looked incomparably noble. However, his face was blurry, as if it was covered by a layer of black fog. It was impossible to see his face clearly. Virtuous Dharma Laksana? Yen Chuan let out a sigh as confidence flashed in his eyes. The black-robed man's aura suppressed everyone. "Hall Master, it's them. They are the ones who kidnapped the young Hall Master," a Middle Void Realm martial artist immediately shouted. "Hall Master, the young Hall Master is on the flying boat. Quickly save the young Hall Master," another Middle Void Realm martial artist shouted. The black-robed man turned his head and glanced at the 9 Middle Void Realm martial artists. He said indifferently, "Trash." The 9 people's faces changed. In the end, no one dared to refute. 9 Middle Void Realm martial artists protecting Aotion's holy son were kidnapped by 2 Divine Realm martial artists in the end? If this got out, it would definitely be the biggest joke in the Divine sect. "Father, Father, Father, save me, Father!" Aotion's holy son's surprised cry came from a main hall on the flying boat. Chapter 794. Father, quick! Capture all of them! I want revenge! I want revenge! Aotion Holy Sun's voice suddenly flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. In a large hall, the ravenous wolf was guarding the proud sky sage sun. Tan Lang heard Aotion Holy Sun's words and immediately kicked Aotion Holy Sun in the stomach. Ah! How dare you kick me? Aotion Holy Sun said fiercely. I want my father to extract your soul. I want your soul to be exposed to the sun every day. I want you to beg for death. Aotion Holy Sun said fiercely. Now that his father was here, Aotion Holy Sun relied on him the most. No one who offended him would have a good ending. Keep talking and I'll kill you, Tan Lang said fiercely. Aotion Holy Sun's face stiffened. Ruthless people were afraid of unreasonable people. No matter how ruthless the proud Sky Saint Sun was, he was not a threat to the straightforward greed. If he forced greed into a corner, then everyone would die together. Proud Heaven Saint Sun clutched his stomach that was kicked, his face full of horror. I've seen your portrait before. Are you Yen Chuan of the Jin dynasty? The black-robed figure said lightly. Greetings, 10th God Palace Lord. Yen Chuan nodded. Jin Yu, Huaguang, and Feng Yinyang all stood behind Yen Chuan. 10th God Palace Lord? Heh, do you know that my surname is Kong? The black-robed figure said lightly. 10th God Palace Lord, Kong Xianshui? I know. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. No, you don't know. The black-robed figure said in a deep voice. Yen Chuan was puzzled. According to seniority, Kong Susu is my cousin. You should know who I am. Kong Xianshui said again. Kong Susu's cousin? Yen Chuan frowned. Kong Susu is Yen Chuan's mother. Kong Xianshui is Kong Susu's cousin? Kong family? Wasn't the Kong family in the West? Why are you here? According to seniority, you should call me uncle, and Kong Outyen should be your cousin, Kong Xianshui explained. The group of Middle Void stage experts stared blankly at the sky. Uncle? Cousin? Everyone was still thinking about how to punish Yen Chuan after capturing him to vent the hatred in their hearts. However, the relationship between Zhang Xian and the Hall Master caused the hearts of the crowd to freeze to death. It wasn't just the 9 Middle Void stage martial artists, even Jin Diu, Huaguang, and Feng Yinyang all revealed bewildered expressions. Uncle? This person was the Emperor's uncle? Looking at Kong Xianshui in front of him, Yen Chuan was unmoved, but he believed his words. Kong Xianshui? Kong Susu? The first Hall Master of the Divine Sect wouldn't lie about this, because there was no need for that at this moment. However, Yen Chuan did not show too much affection towards this uncle who had suddenly appeared. Firstly, the Kong family did nothing to stop his mother's death. Secondly, his father's last words warned him to be careful of the Kong family. Yen Chuan smiled and said, Hall Master Kong, what's your plan? Kong Outyen is your cousin, so he's one of us. Let him out first. Kong Xianshui said matter-of-factly. Huaguang and the others all looked at Yen Chuan. Yen Chuan stared at Kong Xianshui and shook his head slightly. Since they are relatives, please rest assured, Hall Master Kong. I promise that Kong Outyen won't lose a single hair. What do you think? Kong Xuanshui's voice suddenly revealed a hint of coldness. It's not that I don't want to let him go, but we are weak and have to consider our own safety. Yen Chuan smiled. Your safety? You don't believe me? Kong Xianshui said coldly. Chapter 795. I believe you, Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Yen Chuan believed that Kong Xianshui was his relative, but he didn't believe that Kong Xianshui would be friendly to him. Ha ha ha, Yen Chuan, you're just like Su Su. You're so suspicious of me. Since I'm your uncle, why are you so worried? He's your cousin, not an outsider. Kong Xianshui said again. Because we're relatives, Hall Master Kong should trust me. Don't worry, I'll release Kong Outian as soon as I'm safe, Yen Chuan said firmly. Neither of them was willing to back down. Suddenly, the atmosphere became awkward. The 9 Middle Void stage experts didn't dare to say anything. After all, this was the Hall Master's family affair. Hua Guang, Feng Yinyang, and Jin Liu were watching and learning from Kong Xianxue. Humph! Kong Xianxue snorted. A huge aura was emitted, and the huge pressure caused the entire flying boat to shake and tremble. Kong Xianxue was infuriated. Hall Master Kong, why are you doing this? Yen Chuan took a step forward and said in a deep voice. Today, I'd like to see how powerful Kong Susu's son is. How dare he talk back to his uncle? Kong Xianxue said coldly. If so, Yen Chuan will accompany Hall Master Kong and have a try. Yen Chuan took a step forward with a smile. Accompany Kong Xianxue and have a try? Not to mention Kong Xianxue, the 9 Middle Void stage experts were also at a loss. What kind of joke was this? How dare a Divine Realm expert boast so shamelessly? Kong Xianxue was also slightly stunned. He just wanted to suppress Yen Chuan with his aura. He didn't expect that Yen Chuan would dare to fight him. Was this guy out of his mind? Good. Don't worry, you're Kong Susu's son. I won't hurt you. Kong Xianxue said coldly. So, Hall Master Kong is giving face to my mother? Yen Chuan said with a smile. That's right. Then, why don't Hall Master Kong allow me to make the first move? Yen Chuan said with a smile. The faces of the 9 Middle Void stage martial artists turned black. This Yen Chuan was too good at taking advantage of the situation. Ha, good, show me what you've got. Kong Xianxue looked at Yen Chuan in surprise. Yen Chuan nodded and looked at Feng Yinyang. Feng Yinyang nodded lightly. Yen Chuan reached out and took out the Great Heavenly Seal. He tossed the Great Heavenly Seal into the sky. Suddenly, a dragon roar resounded from the ground. Roar. Rumble. The earth churned, and 9 huge mountain ranges suddenly appeared in the surroundings. Feng Shui array? Kong Xianxue frowned. Hall Master, that Feng Shui master set up a formation earlier. A Middle Void stage expert shouted. Arg! 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 Suddenly, 9 golden dragons rushed out from the ground. The energy of the 9 dragon veins rushed into the Great Heavenly Seal. Boom! The 9 dragons rushed into the Great Heavenly Seal, and the Great Heavenly Seal suddenly emitted a dazzling light. It expanded by more than 10,000 times and fell from the sky toward Kong Xianxue. Kong Xianxue didn't think much of it at first. So what if an immortal state treasure was powerful? Even if the 9 dragon veins were added, they wouldn't be a threat to him. When the Great Heavenly Seal was close to him, he felt something was wrong. What kind of jade is that? How can it dissolve my virtuous Dharma idol? Kong Xianxue's face changed. The Great Heavenly Seal, yellow jade of heaven and earth? It's used to break qi and virtuous Dharma? Kong Xianxue's face changed drastically. Hong! Under the pressure of the Great Heavenly Seal, the powerful virtuous Dharma idol collapsed. Kong Xianxue's virtuous Dharma idol collapsed and disappeared. It was too fast and too fake. The Middle Void stage experts were petrified. They couldn't recover from the shock for a long time. How is this possible? The Hall Master is gone? Boom! The surrounding dragon veins were drained by Feng Yinyang, and the mountains collapsed. They turned into a pile of rubble. Yen Chuan used the Great Heavenly Seal. Let's go. Let's leave this place. Yen Chuan shouted. Chapter 796. Central Divine Continent, Divine Sect Sacred Grounds. In a large hall, a black-robed man was sitting on a throne. His hands were resting on the chair, and his eyes were closed as if he had fallen asleep. Suddenly, the man opened his eyes and a torrential qi gushed out. Roar! With a furious roar, the man slapped away a tea set on the table beside him. Yan Chuan? Little bastard, you're the same as your mother, both of you aren't good people. The man said coldly. This person was Divine Sect's Holy Land, 10th Divine Hall's Palace Master, Kong Xianshui. Back then, your mother betrayed the Kong clan and ruined my plans. Now I've set things right. You little bastard, you actually came here as well? It's useless even if you're here. If it wasn't for the fact that I have to refine the great world-suppressing steel and can't leave, how could I allow you to act so impudently? If anything happens to my son, I will skin you alive. Kong Xuanshui's eyes flashed with hatred. The heaven and earth great mystic yellow jade? Ah! Kong Xuanshui's eyes flashed with greed. Yan Chuan's flying boat quickly left the place. The 9 Middle Void Realm martial artists followed behind. The 9 of them were still in a daze. The previous scene was too bizarre. Had he managed to shatter the Hall Master with a single palm? How was this possible? At the stern of the ship, Yan Chuan looked at the 9 people. Now, the 9 of you don't need to follow us, Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. What? The old man's face darkened. If Kong Xianshui asks, just tell him that I told you. As long as you don't do anything stupid, Kong Aotian will be fine. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. When did you release the Holy Sun? The old man shouted. When we are safe. Yan Chuan said affirmatively. Everyone hesitated. If you continue to follow me, I can't guarantee that Kong Aotian will be in one piece. Yan Chuan said coldly. Don't. The old man's face darkened. Senior Marshal brother, you can't listen to him. What if? Another Middle Void stage martial artist immediately cried out. Shut up. The old man said in a deep voice. Huh! No matter how bad the relationship between Yan Chuan and the Temple Master is, the Holy Sun and Yan Chuan are blood relatives after all. The Holy Sun did not offend Yan Chuan, so Yan Chuan will not make things difficult for him. As he said, once it is safe, he will release the Holy Sun. The old man said with certainty. Moreover, the Temple Master has already acknowledged Yan Chuan as his relative. If we leave, it won't be considered a dereliction of duty. The old man said in a deep voice. But. No buts. If you insist on doing things your own way and cause harm to the Holy Sun, you will have to answer to the Temple Master and the Holy Sun yourself. The old man said in a low voice. The face of the person who spoke suddenly changed, and he shut his mouth. The old man looked at Yan Chuan again. Emperor of Hell, Aotian's Holy Son has been spoiled since he was a child. It is inevitable that he will speak rudely. I hope you can forgive him for the sake of our kinship. The old man said solemnly. Okay. Yan Chuan nodded. Goodbye. The old man said again. Whoosh. He quickly flew away with the 8 Middle Void stage cultivators. After the Middle Void stage cultivators left, Yan Chuan let out a sigh of relief. Your Majesty, you know that Kong Xianshui must have the virtuous Dharma Laksana? Feng Yinyang asked curiously. Yan Chuan smiled and said, During this period of time, I found out from Kong Aotian that Kong Xianshui has a precious treasure that needs to be refined quickly. He can't go out, so he arranged 9 Middle Void stage cultivators to protect him. Otherwise, who do you think would be so extravagant to have 9 Middle Void stage cultivators as guards? Maybe Kong Xianshui spoils Kong Aotian too much, Hua Guang said in confusion. No matter how much he spoils him, it's impossible. In this world, there can't be too many Middle Void stage cultivators. 9 guards? It's impossible even in the Dazhao Holy Ground, not to mention the Holy Ground of the Holy Ground of the Holy Sect. This arrangement must be because Kong Xianshui can't protect his son during this period of time. It's just that I didn't expect him to be a member of the Kong family, Yan Chuan said with a serious face. Chapter 797. Your Majesty, are we still going to Meng Hongying's place? Hua Guang asked. No need. Since Kong Outyin knows where ZZ lives, let's go there and pick her up. We will return immediately. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Yes, Your Majesty. Jean Diu. Yen Chuan looked at Jean Diu. Your Majesty? I see that you have been fighting as the Golden Crow. Don't you cultivate treasures or weapons? Yen Chuan asked curiously. Jean Diu looked at Yen Chuan and revealed a trace of bitterness. My family has had its own inheritance of refining artifacts for generations. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find the materials I want, so I haven't used any artifacts. Oh? What material is it that is so hard to find? Yen Chuan asked curiously. Fire Essence Stone of Extreme Yang. Jean Diu explained. Fire Essence Stone of Extreme Yang? This material is indeed rare. Don't worry. Since you have joined Dezhen will naturally send a large number of people to find the material you want. However, I have never heard of this material being used to refine treasures. My Jin family has been passed down for generations, and our magical treasure is a bell. It is called the Gate of Heaven. Jean Diu explained. Gate of Heaven? What a great name. Don't worry. I will help you refine the Gate of Heaven as soon as possible. Yen Chuan said confidently. Yes. Thank you, Your Majesty. Jean Diu replied. The flying boat circled around and avoided all the large cities. High in the sky, they activated the array and formed a white cloud that covered the flying boat. They quickly flew toward the depths of the Archaean sect. I don't want to go to Purple Heart Villa. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Kong Outyin shouted. A month ago, when his father's virtuous Dharma idol was destroyed, Kong Outyin knew that he was in trouble. Therefore, he was very cooperative with Yen Chuan. So much so that he would answer every question. However, Kong Outyin did not expect that he would be going to Purple Heart Villa. Shut up! Tan Lang shouted coldly. Tan Lang's shout made Kong Outyin tremble. He had suffered a lot at Tan Lang's hands. Tan Lang did not know how to control his strength when he hit someone. He left behind a group of soldiers to guard the flying boat hidden in the forest. Yen Chuan, Feng Yinyang, Hu Guang, Jin Diu, and Tan Lang escorted Kong Outyin to ZZ's residence. You can't go. Yen Chuan, you really can't go. You don't know how terrifying that Saint Z is. Anyone who comes into contact with her is unlucky. She is the god of plagues. Kong Outyin exclaimed. Shut up. Yen Chuan said coldly. It's true. When she first arrived, many people chased after her because she's the granddaughter of my divine sex master. But as long as you're near her, everyone would become unlucky. I personally experienced it. Because of her, I was sick for half a year. Even drinking water almost choked me to death. I was even assassinated by hundreds of experts. That's why my father constantly sent guards to protect me. Even more because of her, my demon pet died without knowing why. That's why I wanted to capture Jin Diu. Kong Outyin said in horror. Ha 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 ha. Yen Chuan's heart was at ease. You can't go. Yen Chuan, you can't go. I'm also unlucky enough. My father even said that he would find a way for me to marry Saint Z. But who would dare to marry such a Saint Z? Who would dare? Kong Outyin exclaimed in horror. What did you say? Kong Xianshui wants you to marry ZZ? Yen Chuan's pupils suddenly shrank. Yes. My father is good to me in everything except this. He wants my life. I don't want this god of plagues. I don't want it. Kong Outyin exclaimed in horror. It's not that you don't want it. It's that you don't deserve it. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. ZZ is my wife. Why should I let you marry her? Yen Chuan said in disdain. Really? That's great, that's great. Kong Outyin was indescribably surprised. I came this time to take ZZ away. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Really? That's great. If you take ZZ away, my father won't force me. Oh right, we can't go this way. I'll lead the way for you. We'll go the other way. Kong Aotian exclaimed immediately. Yen Chuan looked at Kong Aotian in confusion. My father has arranged a large number of disciples around the Purple Heart Villa to keep an eye on Saint Z. If we go this way, we'll be discovered soon. At that time, if they stop you from taking ZZ away, we'll be in trouble. Kong Aotian said immediately. Disciples are waiting? Yen Chuan squinted his eyes. I didn't mean to hide it. It's just that. Kong Aotian instantly regretted. He knew that he had spilled the beans. It's okay. I won't blame you if you want to run away. However, you have to tell me why Kong Xianshui keeps looking at ZZ. Yen Chuan frowned and said. Seeing that Yen Chuan didn't blame him, Kong Aotian heaved a sigh of relief. I don't know. My father said that he had been planning this for many years. Someone ruined it and forced ZZ to leave the holy grounds. Now that ZZ is back, he can't let her go. Kong Aotian recalled. The group changed their path. At the same time, Yen Chuan was pondering in his heart. Kong Xuanshui's plan? With ZZ's return, they seemed to be in a new quagmire. Yen Chuan's expression changed and he was even more determined to take ZZ away. Who's there? He suddenly shouted. Whoosh! A golden light flashed and Jean Diu instantly appeared at the place where the voice came from. He slapped the person unconscious. This is the guard of the Purple Heart Villa. Don't worry, we'll continue. You can leave immediately after taking Saint Z away. Kong Aotian said excitedly. Finally, he was going to send the plague away. Even if his father was to blame him in the future, it would have nothing to do with him. It would be best if the plague could kill all of them. All of them would die. Kong Aotian thought viciously. With Jean Diu's help, the journey was extremely smooth. Soon, they avoided all eyes and ears and arrived at the entrance of a valley. There was a waterfall in the valley. The surrounding environment was exactly the same as the Purple Heart Villa in Carefree City. The only difference was that there was an additional hall. King of Hell's Hall. Under the waterfall, there was a purple-robed figure sitting on the pier. She was facing the water and gently washing her purple hair. That delicate figure gently combed her hair. In an instant, Yen Chuan felt like he had returned to the past when he first saw ZZ in Carefree City. A gentle smile appeared on Yen Chuan's face. Wait for me outside. Yen Chuan said. Yes. Everyone replied. When everyone left, Kong Aotian watched Yen Chuan slowly walk towards ZZ. Kong Aotian's eyes flashed with a trace of hatred. This Yen Chuan was really lecherous. He wouldn't even let go of the plague. Let's see how you'll die. Chapter 798. Atlas Studios in the main hall where Meng Hongying was in Archaean sacred ground. She was receiving an important guest, Guyu Holy Sun from the Dazhao sacred ground. Red Embellishment Saintess, please help me pass a message to the Holy Master of Archaean sacred ground. Tell him that I'm here to see him. Guyu Holy Sun said after taking a deep breath. I'm sorry, Guyu Holy Sun. You should know that our Archaean sacred ground has a divine world. The Holy Master and most of the Hall Masters have entered the divine world. Outsiders are not allowed to enter. My grandfather has also said that unless the Archaean sacred ground is in a life-or-death situation, no one is to disturb us. Meng Hongying shook her head. All of them have entered the divine world? Guyu Holy Sun said with a complicated expression. Guyu Holy Sun, what's the matter? It seems that the Guishan Hall Master, Kong Xianshui, has not entered the divine world. If it's really urgent, you can go and see him. Meng Hongying said. Guyu Holy Sun's expression changed. He took a deep breath and shook his head. I've already been to the Guishan Hall. Unfortunately, the Guishan Hall Master has not met anyone. I'm not sure about that. Meng Hongying said with a helpless expression. No, we still need the Red Embellishment Saintess' help. The ancient moon holy sun said solemnly. Me? Help? Haha, Guyu holy sun is flattering me. What can I do? Why don't you try going to the Guatian hall? Meng Hongying shook her head. No, red embellishment saintess, you're the first saintess in the Archaean sacred ground. Only you can do this. Guyu holy sun said. First saintess? Haha, Guyu holy sun is flattering me. I'm not worthy. Meng Hongying shook her head. Don't worry, red embellishment saintess. It's not a big deal. It's like finding a needle in a haystack to me, but it's just a matter of words for you. Guyu holy sun immediately dispelled Meng Hongying's mind. It's like this. You should know about the great suppressing boundary monument, right? Guyu holy sun said in a deep voice. I've heard a little about it. Meng Hongying nodded. A few years ago, it was stolen by someone. I, the great Zhao Holy Sun, was extremely angry. I defied the heavens and deduced that the person who stole the great world-suppressing monument was hiding near the Archaean holy ground. You are very familiar with this place. Please help me ask around, Guyu Holy Sun said solemnly. Meng Hongying frowned. The sacred master must have had his reasons for placing the great world-suppressing stele in the central divine continent. Moreover, he had summoned your divine sex sacred ground. However, it was stolen in the central divine continent. The thief was hiding near the divine sex sacred ground. Perhaps he wanted to frame the divine sex sacred ground and provoke a war between our two sacred grounds. For the safety of the two holy lands, I'll have to trouble you. Guyu Holy Sun said solemnly. Meng Hongying frowned and started pacing back and forth in the hall. After a while, Meng Hongying's eyes became determined. Guyu Holy Sun, don't worry. I will make the arrangements. As long as the great world-suppressing stele is near the divine sex sacred ground, I will definitely find it. Alright. Guyu Holy Sun smiled. Purple Heart Villa. Yan Chuan slowly walked towards Little Tan Pier. A gentle and beautiful back was facing Yan Chuan. Facing the reflection in the pond, she gently combed her hair. It was Zizi. Zizi did not need to protect herself. She also did not need to worry about being attacked. In the divine sex sacred ground, almost no one dared to offend Zizi. No one dared to come here. Even though Zizi was extremely beautiful and her purple hair added to her charm, in the face of Zizi's various mysteries, no matter how lustful he would be disheartened. Chapter 799. The saintess of the divine sex sacred ground was revered by countless cultivators. Similarly, the loneliness of the past did not disappear because of power. Instead, it became even more intense. Looking at her beautiful face in the small pool, Zizi smiled quietly. Zizi's heart was not twisted because of this, because Zizi still wanted something to accompany her. That comb. Looking at the comb in her hand and then at her reflection in the pond, Zizi seemed to have returned to the past. A faint smile appeared on her face. She combed her hair, just like how Yan Chuan had combed it himself that day. Yan Chuan? Zizi sighed in her heart. It's been 30 years. Is he still well? Zizi was disappointed. Now, Yan Chuan was standing behind Zizi, quietly watching her. Yan Chuan had always been watching her quietly. Towards Zizi, Yan Chuan felt even more pity. Yan Chuan had been trying his best to help Zizi get rid of the curse on her body. He felt pity for Zizi. Therefore, the Empress only left Zhen Rou on the investiture of the gods, not Zizi. However, when Yan Chuan recalled what had just happened, he realized that there wasn't just pity in his heart. It was as if there was something else. It's been 30 years. Is he still well? Zizi's casual words were like a catalyst, causing the strong tenderness in Yan Chuan's heart to quickly sublimate and change. Yan Chuan's heart trembled, as if the softest part of his heart had been touched. Pity gave birth to love. At this moment, Yan Chuan realized that he had been too unfair to Zizi in the past. A sublimated love grew in his heart. He reached out and plucked a rose from the flower bed, placing it behind him. "Zizi, I'm here," Yan Chuan called out softly. Zizi suddenly raised her head, but she did not turn around. Instead, she looked up and smiled bitterly. "I'm hallucinating again." Zizi shook her head. "Zizi, I'm really here. I'm here to pick you up." Yan Chuan called out again. Zizi's expression changed. Was it not a hallucination? He abruptly turned his head. Their eyes met, and the small comb in Zizi's hand suddenly slipped from her hand. "Yan Chuan?" Zizi asked in disbelief. "I'm sorry I'm late." Yan Chuan handed over the rose and said softly. Zizi felt a lump in her throat and her eyes moistened. She turned around and wiped away her tears as she slowly got up. After she got up, her body trembled as she sobbed for a while. Only then did she wipe her tears and turn her head back. The two of them faced each other. "How did you spend the past 30 years? Yan Chuan asked gently. "I've thought about it for 30 years, looked forward to it for 30 years, resented it for 30 years, and hated it for 30 years. Zizi sniffled and spoke with deep affection. "I should have come earlier. I've wronged you." Yan Chuan blamed himself. There was a hint of guilt in his eyes. "I'm not wronged. Because you gave me someone to think about, look forward to, resent, and hate. For 30 years, I wasn't lonely. For 30 years, I wasn't lonely," Zizi said with deep affection. At this moment, Zizi could no longer restrain herself. 30 years of longing made Zizi lose her restraint. She wanted to pour out all the longing in her heart at this moment. All of it. Zizi's emotions reached the peak at this moment. With Zizi's confession, Yan Chuan's love for her swelled. Looking at Zizi's confession, Yan Chuan's love also reached the peak. The rose in his hand looked so ridiculous. Throwing the rose away, Yan Chuan took a step forward. Under Zizi's surprised gaze, he picked her up and kissed her on the lips. Chapter 800. Zizi's eyes widened. She did not expect Yan Chuan to be so direct. However, she was instantly overwhelmed by the love in this kiss. She was immersed in this passionate kiss. Boom! There was a sudden explosion in the sky. Rolling dark clouds covered the sky and covered the earth. An extremely dense, heavenly might instantly shrouded the Purple Heart Villa. The rolling dark clouds carried the vast heavenly might. Anyone who got within 6 meters of ZZ would have bad luck. Anyone who touched ZZ's hair would be punished by the heavens. At this moment, Yan Chuan hugged ZZ tightly and kissed her deeply. The heavenly might was furious. It came with the power to destroy the world. How could the fate of the wife of a Tao god be sullied by others? And now it was a deep kiss? How could this be? Rumble. The rolling dark clouds pressed down. The center of the rolling dark clouds was fiery red. The center of the rolling dark clouds was slowly rotating with a red light. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Countless cultivators in the divine sect's sacred ground were terrified. Heavenly wrath, this is heavenly wrath. What a strong heavenly wrath. This. The surrounding cultivators covered their heads and ran away in fear. Just the pressure of the heavenly might was enough to make countless cultivators tremble in fear. It was too terrifying. Not only were they terrified, but the heavenly might's pressure was still increasing. It was getting stronger and stronger. More and more cultivators looked at the sky above the Purple Heart Villa in horror. Outside the valley where the Purple Heart Villa was located, Kong Outyen, Jin Diu, Huaguang, Tan Lang, and Feng Yinyang all looked at the sky in shock. What's going on? Jin Diu frowned. No, could it be that Yan Chuan offended Saint Zizi? Yan Chuan was cursed? But this is too cruel. Kong Outyen exclaimed in shock. Kong Outyen could not imagine what Yan Chuan had done. It should be. Huaguang suddenly said. Everyone looked at Huaguang in confusion. Huaguang shook his head and did not want to say more. After all, this was Yan Chuan's matter. As an official, he could not slander the emperor. Will His Majesty be in danger? Feng Yinyang asked with a frown. Everyone frowned. Yan Chuan had personally asked everyone to leave. Now that Yan Chuan did not call them in, everyone hesitated. Hong. At the center of the swirling dark clouds, the first heavenly tribulation finally descended. It was a vast heavenly fire dragon. The fire dragon roared and opened its mouth, bringing with it the power to destroy the world. The fire dragon was surrounded by endless lightning, like a waterfall falling from the heavens. Under the fire dragon's lead, the lightning came rolling down. Under the might of the heavens, the wrath of the heavens could destroy the world. In all directions, the souls of countless cultivators trembled. Just the aftermath alone was enough to make countless cultivators jump wildly. Some were even instantly driven mad by this dragon of heavenly might. The fire dragon roared and charged towards Yan Chuan. The great destruction was imminent, but Yan Chuan still did not let go of ZZ. He still hugged ZZ and kissed her deeply. The heavens and earth lit up, a sea of lightning surged, and the fire dragon rushed towards Yan Chuan. Blue sky thunderclouds. Endless azure mist suddenly appeared around Yan Chuan. The azure mist immediately rushed towards the sea of lightning and the fire dragon. Rumble. The rolling lightning entered the blue sky thunderclouds and disappeared. The azure mist trembled as if it was struggling, but it still managed to block the fierce attack of the heavenly tribulation. It also ferociously absorbed the heat of the heavenly fire. Rumble. The deep kiss did not stop, and the heavenly tribulation did not stop. The rolling sea of lightning and the fire dragon poured down, and endless shockwaves exploded in all directions. Countless mountains and rivers were blown to pieces, and many cultivators were caught in the crossfire. It was only because of a passionate kiss that no one complained about. Chapter 801. Lightning fell like a waterfall and fire dragons descended. The violent heavens' wrath destroyed a large number of mountains and rivers around Purple Heart Manor, implicating countless cultivators. But Purple Heart Manor was safe and sound. Huguang and the others could not hide their worry. They took a step forward and looked at the entrance of the valley. Under the sea of lightning, a man and a woman were hugging each other passionately. Lightning bloomed in the surroundings and fire dragons roared in the surroundings. These two people did not seem to be in danger, but more like the danger was cheering for them. Looking at the two people hugging each other, Huguang, Feng Yinyang, Jin Diyu, and Kong Outyen's faces stiffened and they quickly retreated. How is this possible? How is this possible? Why didn't they strike him to death? Kong Outyen muttered to himself. Just as he finished speaking, Kong Outyen knew that he had let it slip again. He secretly looked at the others and saw that they were looking at him with cold eyes. I didn't say anything. Kong Outyen immediately shouted. In the valley, ZZ gradually woke up from her daze. She suddenly relaxed and pushed Yan Chuan away. No! ZZ screamed. ZZ knew that her curse was too terrifying. Miao is not here again. It's over. She pushed Yan Chuan away in panic, but Yan Chuan grabbed ZZ's hands and did not let her go too far. Rumble. The rolling sea of lightning fell. ZZ's heart was filled with panic. She was afraid that something would happen to Yan Chuan. However, when the lightning fell, it strangely disappeared. Although there was a large amount of lightning, it did not seem to be able to hurt Yan Chuan. Seeing that Yan Chuan was safe, ZZ secretly heaved a sigh of relief. I said I'm lucky. You can't do anything to me. Don't worry. Yan Chuan said softly. ZZ bit her lips. She was still worried. Taking a deep breath, Yan Chuan said, Come back with me and be my empress, okay? Empress? ZZ's expression was slightly dazed. It doesn't matter if it's our parents' order or our relationship. You have to go back with me. You are my wife. You can only follow me. Yan Chuan said firmly. I didn't say I wasn't going. ZZ pouted. Yan Chuan smiled and pulled ZZ into his arms again. Seeing that the lightning couldn't hurt Yan Chuan, ZZ didn't resist this time. East Divine Continent, Great Jin Dynasty, Yen Capital, above the Sea of Providence. Ong! The golden dragon of Providence roared again. The Sea of Providence clouds churned with monstrous waves. The golden dragon of destiny seemed to be infinitely happy. Yifeng and Lu Gang walked out of the hall. How is this possible? I feel that Great Jin has gained another member, and his position is even more honorable than ours? Lu Gang said in surprise. Lu Gang understood that they were the founding fathers of the country. It was impossible for anyone to surpass them after being conferred an official. He felt the same way a while ago. But today, someone had surpassed him? Lord Lu, don't worry. His Majesty won't confer titles randomly. Everything depends on hard work, Yifeng said with a smile. But why do I feel that this newly conferred title is more honorable than ours? Lord E, you should be able to feel it. The Sea of Providence has a special arrangement for officials. But this feeling, the newly conferred title, is more honorable than ours. Lu Gang said blankly. Lord Lu, you forgot about the 3 types of people, Yifeng said with a smile. Empress, Crown Prince, Princess. Do you think their titles will fall behind? Yifeng said with a smile. Ha 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 ha. Lu Gang laughed awkwardly. Crown Prince and Princess aren't realistic. Great Jin should have a new empress. As for this empress, if I'm not wrong, you've seen her before, Yifeng said with a smile. Chapter 802. Lu Gang's pupils constricted as he suddenly thought of someone. The Emperor is an extraordinary person, Lu Gang exclaimed. ZZ was someone that most people did not dare to approach. Even Lu Gang felt apprehensive when he saw her. But Yan Chuan insisted on marrying her? No, the Emperor is an immortal, Yifeng corrected. Purple Heart Villa. ZZ, where's your golden mask? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Since you took it off, I'm not going to wear it anymore. In the past, no one could get within 2 zhang of me. Now that I've taken off the mask, I can get within 10 zhang. However, it's enough that you can get close to me. I don't need anyone else to get close to me. ZZ's eyes flashed with a hint of sweetness. Yan Chuan nodded. Why didn't the lightning hurt you? ZZ asked curiously. I can accept it, Yan Chuan said. Oh. ZZ nodded and did not ask any more questions. She just wanted to stay by Yan Chuan's side. Why did she need to ask so many questions? Something's not right. Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. What's wrong? ZZ asked doubtfully. I might be about to break through. Yan Chuan's expression changed. Then, you should go into seclusion first, ZZ said worriedly. No need. Help me keep a lookout and don't let anyone in. Oh right, there's still Huguang and the others outside the valley. You should know them, Yan Chuan said. ZZ nodded. ZZ stepped out of the valley. Leaving Yan Chuan behind, he looked at the sky. In his shunting acupoint, the thunderclouds in the sky sent an extremely strong signal. Heaven's wrath! Heaven's wrath! Roar! Yan Chuan opened his mouth and rushed into the sky. A fierce suction force rushed into the sea of heavenly fire and lightning. Roar! Under the strong suction force, the fierce heavenly fire and lightning instantly poured into Yan Chuan's mouth. Like a whale swallowing the heavenly fire and lightning. Rumble! Countless amounts of energy poured into Yan Chuan, and countless amounts of lightning tempered Yan Chuan. However, the momentum of this tempering was too fierce. It was so ferocious that Yan Chuan's fleshly body almost couldn't bear it. However, the blue sky thundercloud continued to absorb the heavenly tribulation cloud. In fact, it was even absorbing the heavenly tribulation clouds. Rumble! The clouds of heaven's wrath pressed down harder and harder, and the surroundings of the Purple Heart Villa had long been razed to the ground. Countless cultivators fled in all directions. Oh my God! Heavenly punishment? What kind of heavenly punishment is this? Help! Countless Xiuzhi fled in all directions in fear. Huoguang, Feng Yinyang, Jindiu, and the others were also shocked. The cloud of heavenly wrath was slowly sinking. Correspondingly, the pressure was getting stronger and stronger, more and more terrifying. Let's go. I don't want to die yet. Yan Chuan, what did he do? Kong Aotian shouted in fear. Shut up! Tan Lang shouted. Under the pressure of the heavenly tribulation, none of us will be able to escape. We are dead for sure. I saw Yan Chuan hugging that god of calamity earlier. Now that the heavenly tribulation clouds is pressing down. He won't do that, god of calamity, right? Oh my God, I don't want to die. Let me go. I don't want to die. Kong Aotian cried. Kong Aotian wanted to escape, but these people did not give him any chance. This was the first time Kong Aotian saw Yan Chuan, and he was horrified. He was so lustful that he did not care about his life. Everyone looked at the sky anxiously. However, Huoguang's eyes suddenly lit up. This scene was so familiar. I will go and save the emperor, Jindiu said worriedly. No, Lord Jin, perhaps nothing will happen. Huoguang guessed. Nothing will happen? Jindiu said in disbelief. Just as everyone was in a stalemate, ZZ stepped out of the valley. Chapter 803. God of Plagues. Kong Aotian retreated in fear, but was blocked by Tan Lang. Empress, is His Majesty all right? Huoguang asked worriedly. He's fine. Protect Yan Chuan. ZZ said. All right. Huoguang nodded. I don't believe it. What if His Majesty is in danger? I want to see for myself. Jindiu said stubbornly. It would be too embarrassing if the emperor died right after joining Dezhun. Jindiu dashed forward. Feng Yinyang also ran to the entrance of the valley worriedly. At this moment, Kong Aotian only wanted to escape. He did not have the heart to investigate the situation. Tan Lang listened to Huoguang. Huoguang had already guessed what was going on, so he quickly looked around. Feng Yinyang and Jindiu dashed to the entrance of the valley. But the moment they rushed to the entrance of the valley, their worries disappeared and were replaced by a kind of dazed shock. Ah! The two of them looked into the valley in shock. Yan Chuan was surrounded by endless thunderbolts. It was as though there were chains of thunderbolts trapping Yan Chuan. But if one looked closely, they would realize that the lightning wasn't trapping Yan Chuan, but was escaping. Unfortunately, Yan Chuan opened his mouth and sucked them back. Swallowing lightning with his mouth was nothing. Jindiu and Feng Yinyang could still clearly see the rolling clouds of heaven's wrath pressing down. A corner of the heaven's wrath was directly aimed at Yan Chuan's mouth. Yan Chuan opened his mouth and roared. As lightning flashed in his eyes, the clouds of heaven's wrath were being swallowed by Yan Chuan. Swallowing the clouds of heaven's wrath all by himself? That scene was a heavy blow to the minds of the two. How was this a human? This was a peerless demon god. No, even a peerless demon god wouldn't be this exaggerated. Was he swallowing the wrath of heaven's wrath? Oh my God, was this for real? Feng Yinyang and Jindiu's worldview was turned upside down. This. If the two of you are Yan Chuan's subjects, you should scrupulously abide by your duties. Yan Chuan asked you to guard the surroundings and protect him. Don't just stand here all the time, ZZ said faintly. Oh. The two of them immediately regained their senses. Yan Chuan was fine, but the two of them were greatly shocked. He quickly left the mouth of the valley. They were guarding the surroundings to prevent any sneak attacks. After all, this scene was too shocking. When Jindiu first joined the Great Jin Academy, it could be said that he was half coaxed and half forced. After all, Jindiu always thought that Yan Chuan only had a stronger will and better luck than him, but his strength was no match for him. Of course, that was the truth. However, after seeing the scene just now, Jean Yu no longer had such thoughts. What a joke, even the wrath of the heavens could be swallowed. Was this still considered weak? While Yen Chuan was swallowing the wrath of the heavens, news of what happened at Purple Heart Villa spread out rapidly. This was a sensitive place to begin with, and there were many spies of various forces around. Meng Hongying's main hall. Meng Hongying was conversing with Gu Yu Holy Sun. Reporting, Holy Lady. Holy Lady. A cultivator entered the hall. What's wrong? Meng Hongying asked curiously. Holy Lady, the Purple Heart Villa is facing the wrath of the heavens. The cultivator reported. Wrath of the heavens? Meng Hongying's face changed. Gu Yu Holy Sun, we'll talk later. Meng Hongying left Gu Yu Holy Sun behind and flew out of the main hall. Looking at Meng Hongying's departure, Gu Yu Holy Sun squinted his eyes. Wrath of the heavens? There's wrath of the heavens outside the God world? Could it be the great world-suppressing monument? No, I can't let go of any possibility. The Holy Lord sent me here because he trusts me. I can't screw this up. I have to be quick. Gu Yu Holy Sun narrowed his eyes and chased after Meng Hongying. On the other side, there was another main hall with the words 10th God Hall written on it. A cultivator ran over in a hurry. Chapter 804. The wrath of heaven descended upon Purple Heart Villa, and countless cultivators fled. Far away from the perimeter, the Xiozha who were safe turned back to look. The Purple Heart Villa had already been covered by the heavenly tribulation and was slowly sinking. No one knew what had happened, but they could feel their souls trembling from the vast power. High up in the sky, a storm was raging. No one dared to approach, and no one knew what had happened. Swish! A red light flashed and Meng Hongying quickly flew over with a worried look on her face. Greetings, Saintess. Countless cultivators bowed respectfully. However, Meng Hongying ignored him. Instead, he stared at the rolling clouds of heavenly tribulation in the distance. Lightning and heavenly fire surged towards the Purple Heart Villa. Have you seen Saint Z? Meng Hongying asked a cultivator beside her. No, no. That person immediately replied. Meng Hongying's face darkened. She took a deep breath and headed toward the Purple Heart Villa. Saintess, don't. The crowd of cultivators Jiaohu shouted. However, Meng Hongying ignored him. Who? Suddenly, a golden light appeared in front of Meng Hongying. Jean Yu appeared in an instant, stirring up the air currents. Of course, compared to the might of the heavenly wrath, it was much weaker. Halt! Jean Yu said in a deep voice. Who are you? Meng Hongying glared at him. He was filled with anger. Behind him, Meng Hongying's 4 servants quickly flew over. Meng Hongying lashed out with her whip as if she was about to attack. Who? Immediately, ZZ flew into the sky. ZZ, are you alright? Meng Hongying was overjoyed. I'm fine. ZZ nodded. Jean Yu took a look and quickly flew downwards, disappearing into the forest in the blink of an eye. He continued to protect Yen Chuan. Tell them to guard the surroundings. Don't let anyone in. ZZ said to Meng Hongying. Did you hear that? Meng Hongying looked at the 4 of them. Yes. The 4 servants immediately replied. ZZ brought Meng Hongying to the entrance of the Purple Heart Mountain Villa. At the entrance of the valley, Greed, along with Kong Aotian, Huo Guang, and Feng Yinyang, had all disappeared. Clearly, they had gone to guard the surroundings to prevent any thieves from sneaking in. Saintess read embellishment, I've been kidnapped by Yen Chuan. Quick, save me! Kong Aotian exclaimed in surprise. Meng Hongying frowned as a trace of disgust flashed in her eyes. She ignored him and looked at ZZ. Yen Chuan is here? Meng Hongying's expression changed slightly. ZZ's face revealed a sweet smile. Yen Chuan is inside the valley? Meng Hongying asked in surprise. The wrath of heaven is here. He's dealing with it, ZZ said. ZZ didn't mention Yen Chuan's breakthrough. She didn't want to. Meng Hongying had a complicated look on her face when she saw the heavenly wrath surging toward the Purple Heart Manor. Meng Hongying had already guessed what was going on. Meng Hongying had seen this kind of heavenly punishment before. Last time in the Carefree City, ZZ was assassinated by a lower void realm expert. At that time, it was the punishment of the heavens for hurting ZZ. However, what about this time? What kind of grudge would cause such a magnificent scene to appear again? What did Yan Chuan do to you? Meng Hongying asked curiously. He hugged me. ZZ's eyes flashed with happiness. SSS. Meng Hongying finally understood what was going on with this magnificent heavenly punishment. Hug? Ordinary people wouldn't even dare to get close to ZZ. However, Yan Chuan hugged her? Moreover, Yan Chuan still dared to hug ZZ despite knowing that she was evil. If he hugged her, he would be punished by the heavens. However, Yan Chuan still hugged her. Chapter 805. For some reason, Meng Hongying was envious of Ziyan. Congratulations! Meng Hongying exclaimed sincerely. I've agreed to be his empress. I'll go home with him immediately. ZZ smiled. Home? Isn't this your home? Meng Hongying asked curiously. ZZ shook her head gently and revealed a blissful smile that Meng Hongying couldn't understand. This is just a place to stay. Home is when I'm with Yan Chuan. A place to stay? Home? Meng Hongying was deeply touched. She looked at ZZ with deep envy. Rumble! More and more heaven's wrath flowed towards Purple Heart Villa. It took 6 hours for all the heaven's wrath to enter. The heaven's wrath had completely disappeared. At the same time, Feng Yinyang's voice came from outside the valley. Great mystifying fog array. Whoosh! Around the Purple Heart Villa, thick fog suddenly surged into the sky, covering the entire area, making it impossible for outsiders to see what was inside. However, they could see a faint beam of star intent descending from the sky. Star intent? Countless cultivators were curious. The star intent came from Yan Chuan. In Purple Heart Villa. Roar! Yan Chuan's skin cracked slightly and lightning arcs circled around him. He opened his mouth and swallowed the last bit of Heaven's Wrath Cloud. The Heaven's Wrath Cloud was too violent. It was so violent that his body couldn't withstand it. Yan Chuan had no choice but to use all his strength and connect with the star intent to protect himself. Rumble! The lightning arcs around him kept cracking his skin, but under the star intent, they kept shrinking. Yan Chuan sat down with his legs crossed. The azure thundercloud in his body quickly swallowed the Heaven's Wrath Cloud. The azure thundercloud expanded and contracted. It was digesting the Heaven's Wrath Cloud. Every time it expanded and contracted, a powerful force rushed into Yan Chuan's body. Boom! Tier 4 Divine State. Tier 5 Divine State. Tier 6 Divine State. Tier 7 Divine State. Tier 8 Divine State. Yan Chuan's cultivation skyrocketed once more. With a speed that outsiders could not understand at all, he directly rushed to the 8th level of the divine realm before stopping. All the thunder and lightning around him had been absorbed by the blue sky thundercloud. Golyalu! The thunderclouds in the blue sky churned. Gradually, it returned to its original state. It just looked a lot more exquisite. Yan Chuan opened his eyes and dispersed the will of the stars. The 3rd level of the heaven-devouring Tao scripture? Yan Chuan asked doubtfully. It doesn't seem to be any different. Yan Chuan looked ahead, and his expression suddenly became serious. Just like before, he shot a heavenly thunder at a small hill in front of him. Boom! A clap of thunder sounded. But there was no lightning? A gentle breeze blew past, as if nothing had happened. Yan Chuan revealed a trace of surprise. What's going on? The 1st level of the heaven-devouring Tao scripture attracted heavenly tribulation and heavenly lightning. At the 2nd level, it was the heavenly shepherd tribulation. But at the 3rd level, there was no more tribulation? Only one clap of thunder? Why was it that the more he trained, the weaker he became? Even the lightning was gone? Just as Yen Chuan was puzzled, a strange change suddenly happened on the small hill. The original grass grew rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, it was as tall as a person. On the small hill, a small tree that was as thick as an arm suddenly grew strangely. It grew taller and taller, thicker and thicker arms, thighs and waist. The plants grew crazily, inexplicably crazily. Yen Chuan's eyelids twitched. This is? Yen Chuan frowned deeply, thinking about why. After a while, Yen Chuan's eyes suddenly lit up. Chapter 806. I understand now. I understand now. Lightning doesn't just represent destruction. I misunderstood. What lay represents should be life. In winter, all living things lay dormant, only waiting for the spring thunder to sound to command the world, and all living things would awaken. Spring thunder, all things grow. This is the first thunderbolt every year. Yen Chuan's eyes flashed with surprise. Lightning and thunderstorms are only the most superficial manifestations of lightning. Is the heaven-devouring Tao scripture helping me understand the essence and origin of lightning? This was only the third stage, spring lightning? Just what kind of cultivation technique is this heaven-devouring Tao scripture? Yen Chuan was incomparably shocked in his heart. Heaven mender? Dugu Butian once said that I was also a heaven mender? Could it be that he's talking about the heaven-devouring Tao scripture? Yen Chuan's eyes suddenly focused. But the more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. He knew that the heaven-devouring Tao scripture was far beyond what he had come into contact with in his previous life. Suppressing the shock in his heart, Yen Chuan narrowed his eyes. Spring lightning? All things are born? He stretched out his left hand, revealing a seed birthmark on his left wrist. Poison ivy. Before I died in my previous life, I used the life-stealing poison, hoping to reincarnate with all the treasures from my previous life. Inside the sky-burying coffin, there were many treasures buried with me, but only you reincarnated with me. It can be seen that your spirituality is much greater than the other treasures. After sleeping for so many years, we will use the spring lightning to awaken you. Yen Chuan said with a serious look in his eyes. With a slight pressure, the birthmark slowly floated out of Yen Chuan's arm. Spring thunder, all things grow. Facing the germinating seed, Yen Chuan once again cast spring thunder. Boom! When the spring thunder struck, the seed suddenly trembled violently. Boom! A large number of vines shot out from the seed like tentacles, quickly emerging and growing. Chi! The two vines instantly pierced into the ground. Poison ivy's body rapidly grew. At this moment, countless vegetation in the valley began to rapidly wither. The large trees and grass that had just grown rapidly also rapidly withered, as if their lives had been sucked out by the vine. Ka. The earth was turning into sand, and the essence of the earth was being extracted by the vines. Bang! Bang! In the valley, more and more vines emerged from the ground. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of vines covered the entire valley. Moreover, they were getting thicker and more numerous. The desertified land spread out in all directions, extending out of the valley. In the distance, the forests withered and the earth turned into sand. What's going on? Meng Hongying exclaimed. Everyone quickly floated up. With Feng Yinyang's formation covering them, the outside world couldn't see what was happening inside. After a long while, the expansion of the desertified land finally stopped. In the valley, countless vines covered the sky, wrapping Yen Chuan within. In the center of the sea of vines, a monster appeared in front of Yen Chuan. It was a humanoid monster, but its body was made of plant root. Its arms and legs were made of vines, and there were vines on its head. It controlled the sea of vines. Above its head was a pair of dark eyes. He seemed to be at a loss. It had some spirituality, but it lacked intelligence. Poison ivy. You have finally recovered the strength of your previous life, Yan Chuan said excitedly. The humanoid poison ivy quickly wrapped around Yan Chuan and rubbed against Yan Chuan, as though he was trying to curry favor with his master. No, you have evolved more than in your previous life. Don't move. There are a few words on your chest this time. Yan Chuan immediately looked at Poison Ivy's chest in surprise. In front of Poison Ivy's chest, there was a line of words that seemed to have been formed by nature. Unparalleled Divine Weapon, Vine Demon, 7th. Yan Chuan read the words on Poison Ivy's chest. Chapter 807. Outside Purple Heart Villa, Guyu Holy Sun stood among the crowd, frowning as he looked at the foggy Purple Heart Villa in the distance. Guyu Holy Sun arrived quickly. Before Meng Hongying arrived, Guyu Holy Sun had already hidden among the crowd. He saw some of it, but could not be sure that it was the great world-suppressing monument. Guyu Holy Sun watched quietly as the crowd discussed. In Purple Heart Villa, countless vines retracted back into the humanoid Vine Demon's body. Vine Demon of the Peerless Divine Weapon? 7th? Yan Chuan looked at the Vine Demon in confusion. Peerless Divine Weapon? It seems that you were created by a powerful immortal. Peerless Divine Weapon? Your 7th? Are there more? Yan Chuan frowned in surprise. Yeah. The humanoid Vine Demon shrunk rapidly and turned into a ginseng. It circled Yan Chuan for a while and finally rubbed against Yan Chuan's arm. No matter how you came to be, since you're already mine, Yan Chuan, you're mine. Vine Demon? Since you're called Vine Demon, I'll call you Vine Demon from now on. Yan Chuan nodded in satisfaction. Yeah. The Vine Demon cried out happily and shrunk again. It went into Yan Chuan's left wrist and formed a root pattern. Peerless Divine Weapon? Yan Chuan was delighted. Not only was he not injured by the heavenly punishment, but his cultivation had also increased to Tier 8 of the Divine Realm. The heaven-devouring Tao Scripture had also increased to Tier 3. The Vine Demon had also evolved to the state of his previous life. Yan Chuan was in a good mood. He waved his sleeves and walked out of the valley. The valley had completely turned into sand, but Yan Chuan did not care. He saw ZZ and Meng Hongying as soon as he walked out of the valley. ZZ's eyes flashed with worry while Meng Hongying's eyes flashed with a complicated look. Saintess Hongying, we meet again. Yan Chuan smiled. Humph. Meng Hongying snorted coldly. Apparently, she still couldn't let go of Yan Chuan's sincerity that day at the hot spring. Or perhaps she still didn't treat him nicely because of her modesty. Are you done? ZZ asked worriedly. Everything is fine. Yan Chuan nodded. At this time, Jindu, Feng Yinyang, and Hua Guang also returned. Jindu's cultivation was 2 realms higher than Yan Chuan's. Naturally, he could tell that Yan Chuan's cultivation was at the 8th tier of the God realm. Jindu's jaw dropped. Was this a joke? His cultivation was growing too fast. ZZ, it's time for us to leave. Yan Chuan said. Yes. ZZ nodded. He's leaving just like that? Meng Hongying suddenly felt a sense of melancholy. I'm going home. ZZ smiled. Should I inform grandfather? Meng Hongying said all of a sudden. There's no need. I've been here for more than 30 years and I've never seen him. It doesn't matter if I don't see him now. ZZ shook her head. All right. Meng Hongying nodded. Yan Chuan looked at Kong Outyen. Outyen, Holy Son, regardless of the grudges between our parents, you and I are connected by blood. Once we're out of the Archaean sacred grounds, we'll let you go immediately. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Ah, good good. All right, I wish you two a long, long life. Kong Outyen said excitedly. Yan Chuan waved at Feng Yinyang. Feng Yinyang nodded and a white light shot up into the sky. Whoosh! The white light shot up into the sky as if it was a signal. The fog around them slowly dispersed. As the fog dispersed, the deserted ground was exposed. What's going on? Purple Heart Villa has turned into a desert? Ah, that's Holy Daughter Z. The man beside her is standing so close to her. Does he want to die? Chapter 808. Countless cultivators were in a heated discussion. Gu Yu Holy Sun squinted his eyes in the distant crowd. Yen Chuan. Gu Yu Holy Sun's face darkened slightly. Gu Yu Holy Sun had suffered a lot in the hands of Yen Chuan. He looked at Yen Chuan gloomily with exceptionally cold eyes. Just when many people were surprised, a flying boat suddenly flew over from afar and landed near Yen Chuan. Saintess Hongying, farewell. Yen Chuan led the crowd to bid farewell. Meng Hongying did not know why, but she still nodded her head calmly. Want to leave? Suddenly, a furious roar exploded in the void. Father, father, I'm here! Kong Outyen shouted excitedly. Whoosh! 10 figures abruptly appeared in the sky, and 9 of them were precisely the 9 void stage experts that had followed Yen Chuan for a few months, whereas the one in the lead wore a black robe, had a fair face, and his eyes emitted a faint light. Kong Xianshui. Yen Chuan narrowed his eyes. Last time, it was the Merit Dharma Laksana. This time, it was his real body. If it was before, even if Kong Outyen was in his hands, Yen Chuan would be slightly worried. But now, with the resurrection of the Vine Demon, Yen Chuan finally had something to rely on. Greetings, Blooming Water Palace Master. Shouts came from all directions. Kong Xianshui looked coldly at the crowd in front of the flying boat. You still dare to come back? Kong Xianshui said coldly. I didn't expect that Palace Master Kong would come out to see me off while refining treasures in seclusion. Yen Chuan said with a smile. See you off? Ha ha ha, leave your imperial seal and let my son go. Seeing that you are Kong Susu's son, I'll spare your life. Get out of the holy ground of the archaic sect. Kong Xianshui shouted coldly. Ha ha ha, my imperial seal? Yen Chuan's eyes turned cold. Everyone looked at Yen Chuan's attitude. If I want to leave, no one can stop me. If you want my imperial seal, come to Dezhen. Yen Chuan said coldly. Huh! Kong Xianshui narrowed his eyes and released a powerful aura towards the crowd. Jin Yu took a step forward, and a ferocious aura gushed forth. But in the end, his cultivation base was weaker than Kong Xianshui's, and he couldn't gain the upper hand in terms of aura. Blooming Water Palace Master, why are you doing this? Meng Hongying suddenly stepped forward and shouted. Hongying, he is an outsider who kidnapped the Holy Sun. Why are you defending him? Kong Xianshui retorted coldly. They're just worried that the Blooming Water Hall Master isn't willing to let go. I believe in Yen Chuan's character. He said that he would release Proud Heaven's Holy Sun as soon as it is safe. Meng Hongying said. But I don't believe it. Kong Xianshui shook his head. If you don't believe it, I can go with them. After we leave the Archaean sect, I will bring Proud Heaven's Holy Sun back. What do you think? Meng Hongying said with a frown. I don't want to trouble you with my business. Kong Xianshui refused to give up. You! Meng Hongying's face darkened. Yen Chuan looked at Kong Xianshui and said with a faint smile, Kong Xianshui, Level 1 Upper Void Stage. You just reached the Upper Void Stage not long ago, right? Kong Xianshui narrowed his eyes. ZZ, let's go. Yen Chuan said with a smile. Go? You can't go. Kong Xianshui's face darkened. His body swayed, and he instantly grabbed at Yen Chuan. Boom! In the desert, a huge rattan as thick as a water bucket suddenly shot up into the sky. It was like a dragon, and it was swung at Kong Xianshui. Boom! Under the huge impact, a storm was set off, blowing the surrounding sandstorm into the sky. Kong Xianshui paused. His eyes flashed with surprise. Chapter 809. Kong Xianshui was not the only one. Almost everyone who knew Yan Chuan was shocked. The vines retreated back into the desert. No one knew where the vines came from, but they all knew that Yan Chuan had stopped Kong Xianshui. The ancient moon holy sun gaped at this scene in shock. Jin Du looked at Yan Chuan with admiration. At this moment, Jin Du no longer had any doubts about Yan Chuan's strength. How is that possible? Kong Xianshui was in disbelief. Father, don't worry. I will be back soon. Kong Aotian shouted. Although Kong Aotian was a lawless person, he still had a strong father-son relationship with his father. Did Kong Aotian notice that his father had not gained any advantage from the previous attack? What if his father was injured? No, I must save you. Kong Xianshui shook his head and said. Yan Chuan looked at Kong Xianshui and said with a smile, Tan Lang, let Kong Aotian go. Tan Lang was stunned. Everyone looked at Yan Chuan in confusion. Let Kong Aotian go? However, when they thought of the whip, they calmed down. Yes. Tan Lang immediately let Kong Aotian go. Kong Aotian felt quite shocked and flew away from Yan Chuan in confusion. Father? I am free, Kong Aotian said excitedly. Kong Xianshui looked at Yan Chuan in confusion. Yan Chuan said indifferently, It's fine if I didn't know about Kong Aotian's bloodline, but since I know that Kong Aotian is related to me by blood, I, Yan Chuan, have no reason to use my relative as a hostage. If my son doesn't betray me, I won't betray him. If my son doesn't betray me, I will not betray him? Kong Aotian looked at Yan Chuan with a complicated expression. Did Yan Chuan mean that if you didn't do anything to me, I wouldn't do anything to you because we are relatives? Kong Aotian hated Yan Chuan, but at this moment, he had mixed feelings. Zizi, let's go. Yan Chuan said to Zizi. Yes. Zizi nodded. Don't go. Kong Xianshui shouted. What? You still haven't given up on my imperial seal? Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Kong Xianshui's expression was complicated. Finally, he said in a low voice, Since you let my son go, as his uncle, I don't want your imperial seal. You can go, but she's not allowed to leave. Kong Xianshui pointed at Zizi coldly. Zizi? Not allowed to leave? Zizi's eyes darkened. Yan Chuan stood in front of Zizi, his face cold. Blooming Water Hall Master, Saint Zi was conferred by my grandfather. You can't control her. Meng Hongying shouted again. Father, what are you doing? Let them go. Kong Aotian shouted in confusion. Father is doing this for your own good. Kong Xianshui frowned. Ah? For my own good? I don't want to. Father, she and Yan Chuan are husband and wife. Why do you want to keep her? Kong Aotian suddenly shouted. Husband and wife? Yan Chuan doesn't deserve her. Her husband can only be you. Kong Xianshui said in a deep voice. I don't want to. I don't want to be a plague. Father, I don't want to. Kong Aotian exclaimed. The surrounding people. Was there an internal conflict between the father and son? Slap. Kong Xianshui slapped Kong Aotian's face. After the slap, Kong Xianshui regretted it. It was also the first time that Kong Aotian was slapped by his father. He covered his mouth. His eyes filled with disbelief and tears gushed out. Father, you hit me. Sob, sob, mother, father hit me. Kong Aotian cried. The surrounding cultivators were speechless. Kong Aotian's temperament was too exaggerated. Now, he was crying for his dead mother? Kong Xianshui persuaded in a low voice. Aotian, how could I harm you? Do you know what Zizi's fate is? In order to give birth to this fate, I've done many things to make Zizi's parents marry each other. It's all for you, for you. Kong Xianshui controlled his voice so that others couldn't hear him. They all thought that Kong Xianshui was comforting his son. With such a father, many cultivators were envious. For me. Kong Aotian wiped his tears and asked in confusion. That's right. You also have a special physique. When I found out about your physique, I spent a lot of effort to find the fate of ZZ's parent. You must get her. My son will become the pride of the Kong family. Those old guys will support Kong Emoku. Emperor Emoku? My son's future achievements will not be inferior to his. Kong Xianxue comforted in a low voice. Chapter 810. While Kong Xianxue was persuading his son, Yan Chuan ordered ZZ, Huguang and the rest to board the airship. Kong Xianxue glanced at the airship and said angrily, I said, no one is allowed to leave. Whoosh! A powerful aura spread out and blocked the airship. Yan Chuan walked behind Kong Xianxue and said coldly, Hall Master Kong, are you suppressing some kind of treasure? Kong Xianxue's face darkened. Your attack just now was not at the level of an upper void realm cultivator. You can't stop us if you don't give up on suppressing the treasure. ZZ is my wife. No one can stop me if I want to take her away. Yan Chuan said. Ridiculous. You think you can stop me just because you have a pseudo-immortal weapon? So what if it's a pseudo-immortal weapon? You can't control it. Kong Xianxue said coldly. You can give it a try. Yan Chuan's eyes were cold as he refused to back down. Attack! Kong Xianxue shouted at the 9 Middle Void Realm cultivators. As he spoke, Kong Xianxue slapped out with his palm. A gigantic black palm print pressed down on Yan Chuan. The sea of sand seemed to have exploded. A dragon-shaped giant vine rushed out from the sea of sand and swung at the black handprint. Boom! The giant vine smashed the giant handprint and slashed at Kong Xianxue. Kong Xianxue narrowed his eyes and reached out his hand to grab the sky. Boom! A huge handprint caught the dragon-shaped giant vine. Kong Xianxue restrained the giant vine in an instant. He clenched his fist and the giant vine was suddenly deformed. He was proud of himself. Suddenly, the sea of sand exploded again. 3 dragon-shaped giant vines rushed out from the sea of sand and swung at Kong Xianxue. There are more? Kong Xianxue's face changed. 3 giant vines swung at Kong Xianxue. Yan Chuan also had a giant vine under his feet. Yan Chuan floated up slowly. The 9 Middle Void Realm cultivators rushed at the airship. Let's see who dares to come. ZZ suddenly took a step forward, a trace of gloominess flashing in her eyes. The 9 Middle Void stage experts' complexions changed and their bodies came to a halt. They were well aware of how terrifying ZZ was. One of the Middle Void stage cultivators had even personally experienced it. That was a Middle Void stage cultivator. After he had contradicted ZZ, he had been unlucky for more than a month. Even his loving wife had eloped with a mortal. It was a great humiliation and an eternal nightmare. Now that ZZ had taken a step forward, the 9 intermediate void stage experts didn't dare to take a step forward. This Saint Lady ZZ was too strange. Boom! On the other side, the 3 vines collided with Kong Xianxue. Kong Xianxue struck out 3 palms and blocked the 3 giant vines. However, Kong Xianxue's step of capturing Yan Chuan was stopped instantly. Hall Master Kong, take out the treasure that you're suppressing. Otherwise, you won't be able to stop me today. I can see that at least 70% of your strength is suppressing that treasure, Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Kong Xianxue looked coldly at Yan Chuan and then at ZZ. His eyes were filled with uncertainty. That's right. If you don't take it out, I can't do anything to you. If you take it out, I can only use it once. In that case, I'll take out ZZ's birth chart. Kong Xianxue said coldly. What did you say? Yan Chuan's eyes turned cold. Everyone only had one birth chart. If one's birth chart was taken out, he would definitely die. I'm the one who brought ZZ into this world. Without me, her parents wouldn't have gotten married. Her birth chart is mine, Kong Xianxue said coldly. Chapter 8:11. Meng Hongying's expression changed. Hall Master Kong, what did you say? You're the one who facilitated the marriage of ZZ's parents? They're both members of the Meng family. The marriage of a brother and sister is intolerable in the secular world. Grandfather is under a lot of pressure because of this. So, you're the one who facilitated it. Kong Xuanshui's eyes turned cold. My grandfather won't let you off for meddling in the affairs of the Meng family. Gui Shenhao? It's useless even if you're the Gui Shenhao master. Meng Hongying rebuked angrily. Do you think I care? Kong Xianshui said coldly. Meng Hongying's eyelids twitched. She saw madness in Kong Xuanshui's eyes. Kong Xianshui was willing to give up the position of Gui Shenhao master for ZZ's birth chart? Kong Xianshui stared at Yan Chuan. Since you want to see my full strength, then go ahead. That treasure is really good to use against you. None of you can leave, Kong Xianshui said coldly. Kong Xianshui reached out and took out a black treasure from his sleeve. The treasure grew bigger and bigger. It was surrounded by black water. Kong Xianshui kept injecting black energy into the treasure to suppress it. Before the treasure appeared, Yan Chuan could already feel a strong poisonous aura. Rumble! The black water slowly retreated. The poisonous aura swept in all directions. Countless cultivators were suppressed to the point that they couldn't breathe. The poisonous aura was even more terrifying than the divine punishment from before. Yan Chuan's eyes turned serious. ZZ stood beside Yan Chuan worriedly. Yan Chuan immediately shielded ZZ behind him. The desert below Yan Chuan's feet moved. More and more giant vines lurked out from below. Yan Chuan was waiting for the right moment. What a powerful poisonous aura! Jin Du said in shock. The black water slowly retreated, revealing a huge stone tablet. There were 4 words on it: Great Boundary Suppressing Steel. Great Boundary Suppressing Steel? Meng Hongying exclaimed. Kong Xianshui said coldly. That's right, the Great Stabilizing Boundary Monument. I took it for ZZ's fate. It's a powerful treasure. I haven't been able to refine it for a few years, but it's the only thing that can protect ZZ's fate. It's mine, nobody can touch it. Feel the Great Suppressing World Steel. Kong Xianshui sneered. The huge stone tablet fell from the sky and pressed down. Boom! The void wrinkled, as if a hurricane was pressing down. The great world-suppressing steel stirred up a boundless sandstorm. The great heavenly seal. Yan Chuan's face sank and the imperial seal soared into the sky. Hong! The great heavenly seal and great world-suppressing steel collided loudly. A gust of wind suddenly blew in all directions. Although the great heavenly seal's materials were strong, it was a pity that Yan Chuan's strength was ultimately too weak. Ka ka ka! The great heavenly imperial seal was slowly being pressed down. Boom! 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 In the desert, 9 huge vines suddenly shot up into the sky and blocked the great heavenly seal. Unfortunately, the great world-suppressing steel was too powerful. The great heavenly seal was still being pressed down slowly. More importantly, there was a poisonous aura that was directed at everyone. For a moment, Meng Hongying, Jin Du, and the others found it difficult to move. As the great world-suppressing steel sank, the suppression around them increased by 10%. What's wrong? Meng Hongying was shocked. The great world-suppressing steel is activated by me, an upper void stage martial artist. You won't be able to break free. Kong Xuanshui's eyes flashed maliciously. Rise! Yan Chuan shouted angrily. Chapter 8:12. Boom! 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 Suddenly, 100 huge vines shot out of the desert, heading straight for the great heavenly seal. The great heavenly seal's descent stopped abruptly. Boom! The great heavenly seal was no longer sinking. Kong Xuanshui's face darkened. You have a lot of treasures? It's a pity that you don't deserve to have them. Kong Xuanshui's eyes flashed with greed. Be it the great heavenly seal or the giant vines, Kong Xianshui could tell that they were extraordinary. Otherwise, how could they stop the great world-suppressing monument? Just as Kong Xianshui was about to strike again, "How dare you, Kong Xianshui?" someone shouted from afar. Kong Xianshui turned around. It was Gu Yu Holy Sun. He held a scroll in his hand and looked at Kong Xianshui with a gloomy face. Gu Yu Holy Sun? Kong Xuanshui's face changed. How dare you, Kong Xianshui? The great revelation Saint Lord placed the great world-suppressing monument. How dare you touch it? Gu Yu Holy Sun shouted. Kong Xuanshui's face changed. How is this possible? How can it be so fast? How does Jing Ming know about it? Kong Xianshui panicked. This is the decree of the great Saint Lord. Kong Xianshui, hand over the great world-suppressing monument and surrender. Gu Yu Holy Sun shouted. Gu Yu Holy Sun wanted to wait until Yan Chuan was at a disadvantage. However, the great heavenly seal and the great world-suppressing monument were in a stalemate. Gu Yu Holy Sun did not dare to wait. If anything happened to the great world-suppressing monument, the great Saint Lord would blame him. He had no choice but to shout. Yan Chuan looked into the distance in shock. When Gu Yu Holy Sun took out the decree, Kong Xianshui panicked. Was he panicking? He was an upper void stage expert and the temple master of the divine sex Holy Land. Why would he panic? It seems like I can't hide it from them. Jing Ming? Jing Ming? What a powerful technique. Hand over the great world-suppressing monument? No, I'm about to succeed. I must get the purple birth chart. I must. Kong Xianshui said with a hint of madness. Jing Ming was hundreds of millions of miles away, and ZZ's fate was right in front of him. How could he give it up? How could he give up now? Wait a little longer. After I obtain ZZ's fate, I will put the great world-suppressing steel back to its original place. At that time, I will go to the great revelation sacred ground to ask for forgiveness. Kong Xianshui shouted. Gu Yu Holy Sun sneered. Ask for forgiveness? It was too late. Who in the world would dare to touch the Saint Lord's belongings? You're the only one who doesn't know what death is. The Holy Lord has decreed that whoever steals the tablet will be executed on the spot. Anyone who dares to resist will have their entire family wiped out. Gu Yu Holy Sun shouted coldly. Tablet robbers executed on the spot? Anyone who dares to resist will have their entire family wiped out? No, Jing Ming, she won't let me live? She didn't even leave him a way out. Kong Xianshui panicked. This kind of panic made Yan Chuan very confused. The world was so big. If you can't beat Jingming, can't you just run away? Why was he so afraid? Was Jingming really that scary? Millions of miles away, just a name and you're so scared? You're at the upper void realm, can't you have some backbone? Kong Xianshui, hurry up and accept the decree. Gu Yu Holy Sun shouted. As soon as Gu Yu Holy Sun shouted, Kong Xuanshui's face was filled with sorrow. He then looked at Kong Outyin. Father? Kong Outyin was confused as to why his father was panicking. Seeing his son, Kong Xuanshui's face was filled with love. Then, his eyes narrowed. If Jingming says so, I will definitely die. Outyin, before I die, I will do something for you. I will help you obtain ZZ's fate. Kong Xianshui said solemnly. Father? What's wrong? Kong Outyin asked in panic. Kong Xianshui did not say a word. Instead, a large amount of black gas gushed out from his body and a large amount of merits surrounded him. Great world-suppressing steel, suppress. Kong Xianshui used all his strength to activate the great world-suppressing steel. A powerful force pressed against the great heavenly seal. How dare you! Suddenly, a woman's cold shout came from the void. Her voice was filled with arrogance. This shout caused the hearts of countless cultivators in the surroundings to tremble. Some of the weaker cultivators were even forced to their knees by this domineering shout. Chapter 8:13. How dare you! Above the void, a woman's cold voice was heard. Her voice was filled with a domineering aura. This shout caused the hearts of countless cultivators in the surroundings to tremble. Some of the weaker cultivators were even forced to their knees by this domineering shout. Buzz! The great suppressing boundary steel trembled, as if it was responding to the voice. Just the voice alone was enough to make everyone's heart tremble. Yan Chuan raised his head. His pupils shrunk. Kong Xianshui was even more panic-stricken. This voice? Others might not know, but Kong Xianshui had heard of it before. Jingming? Jingming's voice? Jingming was here? Kong Xianshui was shocked. He turned his head to look. The voice came from Gu Yu Holy Sun. Gu Yu Holy Sun had already kneeled down. The decree in his hand floated in the air. The voice came from the decree. The decree slowly floated in the air, and the golden decree slowly unfolded. After unfolding, there were no words on the decree, only a royal seal. On the seal were the words, "Blessed by the heavens, long life and prosperity." Blessed by the heavens, long life and prosperity? Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. These words were the imperial seal of the world, the imperial seal of the emperor. But Jingming was the lord of the Holy Land, not the emperor? Why did she use the imperial seal? Greetings, great sacred lord. Countless cultivators bowed. The decree floated in the air, and the great suppressing boundary steel was no longer under Kong Xianshui's control. Kong Xianshui panicked. Looking at the decree, his face was pale and bloodless. Holy Land of Divine Sect, Gui Shui Palace Lord, Kong Xianshui, greets great sacred lord. Kong Xianshui said respectfully. When I placed the great suppressing boundary steel, I had already announced it to the world. Kong Xianshui, you dare to go against my will? The decree said coldly. The voice was filled with majesty. It was a domineering aura. Kong Xianshui panicked and said, Great sacred lord, I was impulsive. Please be lenient. You knowingly committed a crime. Seeing that you are remorseful, I will be lenient. You kill yourself. The decree floated in the air and said, You kill yourself? The tone was as if it was a great favor. But at this moment countless people were shocked. Kong Xianshui was at the upper void stage. Even if he was at the first level of the upper void stage, he was still at the upper void stage. Jingming asked him to kill himself? Kill himself? Even Yan Chuan could feel Jingming's domineering aura. Hundreds of millions of miles away, a decree came, and an upper void stage cultivator was asked to commit suicide? How domineering was that? Father! Kong Aotian panicked. Kong Xianshui. Reaching out his hand, Kong Xianshui took out a jade slip and shoved it into Kong Aotian's hand. Scram! It's all because of you, you unfilial son. I wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Kong Xianshui shouted. Father! What are you waiting for? I'm not leaving. You guys take this bastard away. Even if I die, I don't want to see him. Kong Xianshui shouted at the Middle Void Realm cultivators. Yes. The Middle Void Realm cultivators replied. Kong Xianshui Xiong Aotian? He was protecting Kong Aotian. The 9 Middle Void Realm cultivators grabbed Kong Aotian and flew away quickly. Father! Father! Kong Aotian shouted. But how could he be a match for the 9 Middle Void Realm cultivators? They disappeared in the blink of an eye. The decree said again, Your bloodline is gone. Kong Xianshui, why don't you kill yourself? Chapter 8:14. Jingming was forcing Kong Xianshui to commit suicide? Countless cultivators looked at the sky, but no one dared to say anything. No one from the divine sects and sacred grounds came out to stop them. The title of the strongest person in the world was so powerful. Kong Xianshui looked at the decree, and his expression changed. Great sacred lord, Kong Xianshui knows your name, and I have seen your methods. Commit suicide? Kong Xianshui does not dare to resist, but in the face of life and death, I have to fight for it. Kong Xianshui said to the decree. Jing Ming's angry snort came from the decree. Sorry, Kong Xianshui shouted. Whoosh! Then, Kong Xianshui did not dare to hesitate. He took a step forward, and rushed in the opposite direction of Kong Outyin. Run! Kong Xianshui could not resist when he was asked to commit suicide. In the face of death, Kong Xianshui could only choose to run, even if he had to hide in a corner. Whoosh! The speed of an upper void realm expert was astonishing. He turned into a stream of light and reached the horizon. In front of my decree, you think you can run? Jing Ming's cold snort came from the decree, and the decree suddenly burst out with a dazzling golden light. Bang! It was like a sun illuminating everything in the world. Yan Chuan saw clearly that under the endless light, a golden palm reached out from the decree and grabbed at the direction where Kong Xianshui was running. As soon as the golden palm struck out, its power was immense. If the heavenly retribution's aura was strong before, then this palm's aura was 10 times stronger. Under this aura, countless cultivators were frightened from the bottom of their hearts. A large number of cultivators knelt down. Boom! The palm reached into the horizon, and grabbed the escaping Kong Xianshui. No, this is just a decree. How can you catch me from 10,000 miles away? Can you catch me from the great sacred ground from billions of miles away? No. Kong Xianshui's voice came from the horizon. His voice was filled with endless sorrow and hatred. Those who go against my decree die. An angry roar came from the void. Rumble! In the horizon, an extremely intense flame rushed to the sky, as if another sun had risen from the horizon. The giant palm turned into a sun and trapped Kong Xianshui. Ah! Kong Xianshui's miserable scream came from the horizon. The faces of countless cultivators twitched as if they could not believe what they saw. They also felt even more reverence for the great light holy master, who was billions of kilometers away. Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. He was also surprised. Jing Ming's means were completely out of his expectation. How could he kill Kong Xianshui with just a decree from hundreds of millions of miles away? Even in Yan Chuan's previous life, he hadn't been able to achieve this level of strength. The most powerful person in the world? Jingming? For the first time, Yan Chuan paid attention to Jingming. It was the Grand Sun primordial flame that burned Kong Xianshui? Jin Yu's expression changed. Kong Xianshui's blood-curdling screams didn't stop for a full breath of time. Boom! The flames in the distance dispersed, and Kong Xianshui turned into ashes. Unable to resist. In front of Jingting, even an upper void stage expert was unable to resist? In the distance, Gu Yu Holy Sun's eyes flashed with endless worship. The golden light dissipated. The decree was still floating in the sky. Yan Chuan kept the great heavenly seal and the giant vine at the right time. The decree was high up in the sky and suddenly faced the west. The divine world of the divine sect's sacred ground? Everyone in the divine world, listen up. Put the great boundary suppressing steel back where it was. If anyone steals it again, I will wash the divine sect's sacred ground with blood. The surrounding cultivators were stunned. Was this a threat? Wash the divine sect's sacred ground with blood? That was too overbearing. In the west, the void trembled slightly in response to Jingting's words. Don't worry, Holy Master Jing. My sect will send people to guard you. The great boundary-suppressing steel will never be stolen again. An old voice came from the divine world. Jingting's voice sounded satisfied. Gu Yu. Jingting's voice came from the decree. Present. Gu Yu Holy Sun said respectfully. Put the great boundary-suppressing steel back where it was and put this decree aside. Jingting's voice said. Yes, Your Majesty. Gu Yu Holy Sun said respectfully. The decree slowly floated to Gu Yu Holy Sun. Gu Yu Holy Sun received it respectfully. At the same time, he flew carefully toward the great boundary-suppressing steel and grabbed it. Jing Ting's aura disappeared, but the surrounding cultivators were still in a daze. Many of them even forgot to get up from their kneeling. Jing Ting had just threatened the entire divine sect's sacred ground, but none of the divine world's experts had any thoughts of resistance? They had even guaranteed it again and again? Jing Ting's prestige was too strong. The divine sect's sacred ground and the Dazhao sacred ground should be on the same level. Why did it seem like the Dazhao sacred ground was superior? Everyone was shocked, but no one dared to say anything. The scene just now still shocked everyone. The divine sect's palace master had been killed by Jing Ting in front of his home, but no one in the divine world dared to stand up for him? The strongest person in the world? Not to mention the countless kneeling cultivators, even Yan Chuan and his group were extremely shocked. How domineering! Meng Hongying's eyes flashed with shock. Yan Chuan was the same, but Yan Chuan was more excited. An inexplicable excitement. An expert? An expert could not suppress Yan Chuan's ambition. On the contrary, it could stimulate Yan Chuan's ambition. One day, he would be able to make all sects submit to him with a single command. Hiding the determination in his eyes, Yan Chuan looked at ZZ and said, "Let's go. Let's continue our journey." ZZ nodded. Everyone slowly boarded the flying boat. "Saintess Hongying, we'll meet again," Yan Chuan said to Meng Hongying. Meng Hongying looked at everyone and felt a little disappointed, but she still nodded calmly. The flying boat rose into the air and flew slowly towards the East Divine Continent. At this moment, no one could stop them. "Father, father!" In a forest far away, Kong Outyin cried out in grief. "Young master, the old master has passed away. Please don't be sad." A Middle Void Realm elder said, "Young master? My father is dead. Will you still protect me? I have offended all of you in the past." Kong Outyin looked at everyone. After being kidnapped by Yan Chuan for a period of time, Kong Outyin's playboy nature had been beaten down. Now that his father was dead, Kong Outyin was even more terrified. The 9 of them suddenly knelt down on one knee in front of Kong Outyin. "Young master, although we are from the 10th God Hall, we have another identity. We are the servants of the Kong family, responsible for the rise of the young master's bloodline. The old master is dead. From now on, you are the new master," the leading elder said solemnly. "We pledge our lives to protect the young master." Everyone shouted in unison. "The Kong family? Is the Kong family powerful?" Kong Outyin wiped his tears and said, "You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."